All right, everyone. This episode, I thought we'd do a throwback to one of my favorite episodes of all time. I still think it's the funniest one I've ever recorded and a massive amount of laughs. So I thought I'd throw it back out there for people to listen to. Got some really good episodes coming up in the next couple of weeks. I hope you enjoyed last week's one on parasites. If you have any questions in regards to that, shoot me an email and I'll get back in touch with Dr. David Jenkins. I definitely want to get him back on at some stage. He's a wealth of knowledge, so if you do have questions, make sure you shoot them through. Okay, let's get into this past episode. It's an absolute cracker. New episodes next week. Let's get into it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. Alrighty. Is it just me? Is anyone just looking at Anthony and it's just his nose? Just straight up his nostrils.
Oh, now I'll put it up a little bit higher. I'll make you happy. How's that sound?
No, it's a good look.
Is that better?
No, that's better. But it was a good look. It was just, what's he doing?
Is that
I think
better?
We'll just start there recording like this, like really set the tone.
Amateur hour here for sure. Are you going to play like the Lord of the Rings intro? Is that what's going to? That's how it's going to start.
Hey, if he's going to play that, Frank, he's got to have a picture of me riding on your back.
Oh God! All right, let's get into it. It's we've just got back from hunt camp. It was a week ago, but oh my God, what an experience! Man, I don't even know where to start. So many things happened. Day one. Let's just start with day one. That was chaos, straight up. I didn't get the chance to come away with you guys on the convoy. So one of my kids got sick and we were tossing up whether to take them to hospital or not. So I had to miss the start. Frank, I believe, led the way, which that scares me because he got himself in a lot of trouble in this trip. So, I mean, I wouldn't personally have let him lead, but hey, you guys did you. Frank, how did you get that?
You just threw me down the river again, Matt. How did I do that? I just led from the front, and as usual, people follow me for some stupid reason. So that's their own fault, really.
I was just looking at everyone's face like no one wanted to follow you, but you somehow took it.
Well, you know what? In fairness, after we got to Macca's, we ended up following Rob and James, I think it was. So Frank was in the middle.
Oh, he's the meat in the sandwich. It was like that the whole trip.
Yeah, that's it.
Mate, all right, so the big one is Rob from Athena Spatial. You came down all the way from Queensland, mate. What a trip. How long did that take you to get down there?
Yeah, it was. It's quite a drive. It was about probably 15 hours of driving. I overnighted in Sydney and then overnighted just short of Yass, which was quite a short drive the second day. So that broke it up a bit. Unlike the drive home where I powered on in one hit. Yeah, it was a good drive, and it was actually quite a nice drive from Yass where we all met up into Tumba.
So we Frank gave me a little bit of a heads up of how you guys actually met up in the servo. Frankie, you want to elaborate on that?
Oh, I paid for my fuel and walked in, and John Rambo met me at the front door. And I looked straight up, and here's a Sasquatch wearing a Swazi jacket. And hello, Frank. Holy dooly, how you going, Rob? So
I had been waiting there for about 40 minutes. I think I was the only one on time. Had the longest way to go, but no big deal.
It was quite interesting to hear that you were decked out, and you're a man mountain, mate. You're a tall human. For some reason, I have no idea, but the shortest member of the crew always wanted to stand next to you, Rob, and I don't get it because it just made him look shorter. Was that done on purpose, Anthony?
It's because I felt safe. It's because I felt safe next to him.
he just wanted some shade.
I know there was a lot of conversation before going. We knew that the snow was coming down, and Frankie, you wanted to get Anthony one of those flags that you put on the toddlers' bikes so people can see them.
Sand flag.
A sand flag, yeah. No, well, we nearly needed it the next morning, didn't we?
Well, I mean, that was chaos. But before that happens, James, welcome. He's popped in a bit late, apparently, like the convoy. So you were late on the convoy, I believe, James.
Convoy of what?
Getting down there when you met up. Where did you guys meet up? Yes.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, not too late.
There's a lot of laughter going on here. So you all got there. Frank was the meat and the sandwich, and you guys took off down into Tumba, and my directions must have been half decent because you found the camp pretty easy. You boys arrived early, about midday?
Yeah, it'd be about midday to camp, yeah.
Got set up. Everyone got straight out for a hunt. So first day hunting, Frank, you went out with Anthony and your brother, Anthony. Oh, that's going to be super confusing for listeners. So I think we need nicknames.
We'll call one Frodo.
Frodo.
We know who Frodo is.
I'm guessing because of his size.
Well, duh. Well, that's what everyone calls him, though. Everyone used to call him Frodo. So,
and your brother.
My brother, Anthony, yes.
That was I was super keen because you guys were smashing each other in the lead up, in the banter and the chat. There was no hold barred, so I'm excited about what's coming out tonight, and that's going to hit shortly, I bet. But you guys got into camp. Let's just jump forward. It started for me. I got in there and I had to rescue Frank. I mean, the listeners want to hear this. Let's get straight into that.
Yeah.
I'm there. I get to camp, got out for a quick arvo hunt in the snow, got back, saw Rob, who I haven't seen since the Hunters Campfire hunt. We tried to say g'day, have a bit of a chat, and I got interrupted by a phone call saying, please save me. Frank has done it again. I mean, not the way I wanted to start my first day, but Anthony, I'll throw to you because he picked the smallest human in the world as the runner.
Yeah. In the dark, he sent me, he sailed me down the river, Matt, and he said, you go, you run back and get help. And not only did they make me run back, but they gave me a candle for a head torch. So I might as well have just turned it off and ran in the dark. Look, I contemplated just throwing that thing into the abyss. That was just rubbish. So, but yeah, we were on our way back to camp, and we got to where the power lines were. We drove up there, and then we were going to turn back, and Frank's like, "I'll just go up this track here." And sure enough, it was getting dark, and Frank literally took us down the track that looks like it hadn't been driven for, a couple of years. And, it turned into a rescue mission because there was trees across it and the whole lot, and it started snowing, it got dark. And then, we got to about 2.5 Ks from camp, and I'm like, no, I'm not waiting here. I'm just going to run back. So, and then, that's when you came and saved us.
Let's not say us. Just say I came and saved Frank. I prefer that.
Well, yeah, look, we wouldn't have been in that situation had we not listened to him, so.
All right, so Frodo came running back. I'm amazed he didn't drown. There were some big puddles there. And then he got a hold of me. I'm trying to talk to Rob and say, g'day, mate. It's been ages. We didn't even really get to have a hug embrace, and the phone's ringing. Come and save Frank. It was like, come on, man. He's a strapping lad, Rob. I wanted a cuddle, but didn't get that. So then I come out to grab Frodo, and he's one of the things he didn't mention was that he put mud all through my car, not on the mats, on the carpet, on batteries, on torches, you name it. He put thick clay right through everything. So I'm just sitting there, and he goes, I'll get it cleaned, or Frank will, I think he told me at the time.
Yeah, Frank will do it.
So while this is all happening and we're trying to drive up, and we'll talk about that drive in a second, you're there with your brother. What is he doing to rectify the situation? Because he talked it up. He reckons he was throwing trees around like this Olympic weightlifter. I don't know. I wasn't there.
So, let's paint this picture of Shrek, who soon turned into a Yeti as it started snowing. But let's paint the picture of Frank in the snow is in shorts and a T-shirt. And I'm in 3 jumpers at this point. The aggression coming through at that point, it was tree after tree getting blocked onto the track. And Anthony decided, he's going to take one for the team. And he ran down to meet up with you. And in that point, Frank looked at me in the car and he said, Well, it looks like it's some one-on-one time for me and you, brother. I could not get out of the car quick enough to go and find any sort of tool or machinery device as a mechanical fitter that I have in my toolbox to get us out of the shit. So, long story short, we grabbed the drill, we grabbed hammers, and look, it did work for a point of it. But at that point, I seen Frank's aggression. He actually had steam coming off his head, and look, teamwork did make the dream work in that point. But it was great that you did come at the point you did, because I think one more tree and Frank was just going to start punching him.
So, look, we're driving in this track, and I'm looking at it, Frodo, and going, mate, what the hell is this track? We're sliding around everywhere. At the point we got up to you guys, I put the handbrake on and had the car in gear, and we're sliding back down the freaking hill. I'm like, where have you guys gone to start with? And then, look, we grabbed the chainsaw, got up there. Frank just tried to take over and steal the chainsaw so that I can't claim that I saved him. I know exactly what he was doing. He almost knocked me out of the way to try and get the chainsaw. And then hey, I got a couple of cuts in, so that's all that matters, mate. The rescue was there from me. Frank, what do you think about that?
Thank you for giving me a chance to defend myself here, Matt. I appreciate it. One, I'll start off with saying, from his recent escapade to Mordor, we sent the best thing we had to a tracker and an explorer to find you. That's why we sent Frodo.
That's it. Send the bravest warrior.
Yeah. And by the time that you got to save me, because no one else needed saving, just me. By the time you got to me, you had to saw through a log no thicker than my forearm. Meanwhile, we have moved
12 inches, mate.
You keep that lie. I don't know what you say to your wife, but that's not right. That's not right at all, right?
Listen, I'm not one to jump into a story here, but I need to say that
no one's talking to you, mate.
Yeah, me and Anthony both said when we went past camp the second time, should we head back to camp? And you said, no, I just want to explore this track down here. Now, heaven forbid, I think on Avenza maps it came up red, do not go down here, because that's what it looked like when we got to it. But you decided to be heroic and say, no, we got this. There's nothing that we cannot handle. And you're right. We couldn't handle it, so we had to go and get Matt to then get you unstuck, because it was your fault, champion.
As I was saying, once I said to these boys, no, I'm not going past camps for you to change your tampons. We're going to keep on going here. I then moved round to the track. We removed 2 logs that were probably about 1.5 feet in diameter. And then by the time you got there, Matt, there was that one last branch that had to be moved. So thank you for getting out that chainsaw to get rid of that. I really appreciate that. And mind you, that was the last thing that needed to be moved before we got. So whether you were there or not, we would have got through in the next 10 minutes. But thank you for turning up and answering the call. So thank you. That's what I'll say on that.
Mate, thank you. Just, I was disappointed you didn't have music, playing for me as I rocked up. The hero comes along. But hey, we'll let that one slide. Next time, maybe next time. So we end up getting back to camp, and James rocked up last in, and he had a big smile on his face. His moustache was almost glowing, and he was showing us what's in the back of his ute. Now, he did say, come see what's in the back of my ute. I was a bit nervous because if people had heard previously, the last time I shared camp with James, he made a habit of trying to come and see me while I was on the and, at least 6 times, but it was an accident, apparently, each time. So, James, you wanted to take me to the back of the car. Thankfully, it was because why, mate?
Can I just defend myself quickly? You do have a habit of shitting in camp. It's not hard to run into you while you're having a crap at camp.
4 times a day.
Most blokes walk off into the bush for a bit, but no. Matt just sets up next to his car. Hey, Matt, where are you? Oh, crap. I came. So, first afternoon, get to camp at about 12-ish or so, and we set up camp in the snow. That was a bit of fun. I mentioned to Rob, I said, geez, mate, he's just come from Queensland in 20 degrees, and now we're in the snow. I said, how's this for a change? And then there's crazy Frankie walking around in just a T-shirt, like, bloody hell, mate, making me feel even colder. So, about 2:30, I thought, let's get out for a bit of a hunt. Nothing too major for the first afternoon. And I know with Rob and all that and Frankie being the sambar expert now, I'm sure all the guys had all these spots, all these e-scouting spots worked out. So I had been busy and not had time at all really to suss stuff out. So I'm just like, first afternoon, let's just pick some little spot and just go for a walk. It's hopefully away from what other guys have figured out they want to do. And yeah, I drove a little bit down the road and went for a walk. And yeah, I hadn't been walking too long. I had to get through this exclusion zone bit. And before long, I was onto some good sandbar sign, plenty of pellets on the ground. And before long, I knew it. I was just on the other side of a little creek line looking at the back end of a sandbar stag. Not like a big trophy stag, but I haven't shot one before, so I was definitely going to drop him if I had the chance. Unfortunately, the only window I had at him through the scrub was, Texas heart shot when I had a full view at him. So I was probably carrying enough gun for it, but I just didn't want to do that and potentially wound an animal or destroy meat and stuff. So I just worked my way up and down the game trail I was on to see if I could try and pick him up through another window through the brush, and just ended up losing him. Whether he got onto me or not, I don't know. He wasn't onto me when I saw him, probably only 60, 70 metres away on the other side of the creek line, on the other side of the hill. And I thought, it's snowing. It's about 4:30, probably only got half hour of light. If I had more time, I probably would have gone across the creek and gone after him. But I thought, it's first afternoon. I'm onto a sambar already. Let's just leave him alone. We'll back out, head back to the car. And on my way back, I bumped two fallow, like spikes, not even spikes, like buttons on the heads, button bucks. And I was in half a mind of like, it's been a big drive and that. Should I just go back to camp and have some beers and some dinner? Or should I drop one of these deer? They were only probably 40 metres away, just sort of look in my direction. And I even checked the map and made sure I wasn't in the exclusion zone and all that. And I was like, it's getting dark. I don't know if I could be bothered cutting one up and dragging it out in the dark. And I thought, well, something in the back of my mind says all us boys have had a group chat going, and there's been a lot of sledging going on in the group chat. So I thought, you know what? If no one else brings a deer in tonight, I'll have brought the first deer in the camp. So I looked one through the scope, and they're still just standing there. It was a gimme of a shot, so I'm just like, boom, shot one. That one ran off, and went down and thought, now the work started. It's getting dark. So I cut the fella up, and I brought out the back straps in my cargo pocket. I only had like a bum bag on me. I was only hunting light. It was a bit of a scouting afternoon. Back straps in the cargo pockets, and two back legs I knocked off and chucked the stick through them and put them over my shoulders and carried them out like that. And by that stage, it was pretty dark. The head torch was whiting me out. Like, it was too dark without it, but then you turn it on, it was too whited out with the snow. So I was tripping over and pretty treacherous getting out. So I was glad to see the car when I got back and, get back to camp and show off some meat, some back legs in the car. I think Rob was the first to spot him. He goes, what's that? I'm like, no one knows yet.
Yeah, he's very, very quiet about it at first.
At first, yeah.
Yeah.
I know when he called a couple of people over and said, guys, do you want to come touch my meat? I got a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I was like, what kind of camp we here for, boys?
Don't lie, you got jealous.
It's the type of camp where James goes out first afternoon into a new spot and shoot the deer. It's been done before.
Yes, well done, James. Good on you, mate. Good job. Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
It was good to see.
Look, to me, like, the target species was sambar for the trip. I didn't get to shoot one, but as the podcast goes on, we'll explain why situations changed dramatically. But I'm happy that I got onto a good spot, found plenty of fresh sign, saw a stag well within shooting distance, and he wasn't even onto me. Like, it wasn't like I bumped him or got honked or anything. So, I mean, that was a win in itself. And as it turned out, like, knocking over that fallow was good because, brought some meat home, and I've just spent today making sausages out of him, the back legs.
Nice.
Done 13 kilos of fat snags out of him.
Beautiful.
And, just finished some backstrap for dinner just before we started recording.
Yeah, no, well, we'll
good first afternoon.
We'll talk about what you did later in the podcast with some of the other meat from a while back. I'm still a bit pissed off. But anyway, we'll talk about that. So, Rob, you're in camp. We was having a bit of fun. Rob, you got a roaring fire going on, which I found hilarious later in the evening at about 3 a.m. But you got that cracking. We were trying to stand there. The snow started to come down pretty heavily. Frankie was making his spaghetti bolognese, got offended when I said, no, I don't want any because you can't do that. You know, that's, what was it? Like turning you down for food I'm not allowed to or something like that?
Don't you like my pasta? What's wrong with it?
I hadn't even tried it. I'm not a big pasta
how would you know
eater.
if you don't like it? How do you know that if you haven't tried it? How would you know?
Here it is. He gets very offended, doesn't he? Anthony's always like this.
All the time. He's a big sook.
It's an Italian thing, mate.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Yes.
All right. So for listeners, we got there. We thought it was cool. It's snowing. Rob is like probably hating life because he's come from balmy Queensland into literally snow. I think by like an hour and a half in, there was a decent whiteout. Like it's just on the ground was now white. And I was like, oh, wow, this is coming down pretty heavy. But I didn't think much more than that. We had dinner, knocked off to bed because we were ready to go for the next day. And I think Rob was the first to wake up. And Rob, I'll throw it to you, Rob. How did you wake up?
That was when the adventure began. Before I went to bed, we'd been going off in Frodo's little annex for a while, and I think I was the first to go to bed. And I just had a little 3x3 gazebo and a little tent annex strung off the back of it, which I used on the last camp. It was a pretty good setup. I upgraded this time and put a little stretcher underneath my swag to get myself off the ground, knowing it was probably going to snow. I went back to camp, knocked all the snow off the gazebo, flipped it all off the top of the tent. It wasn't that much at that stage, to be honest. Probably only, I'd say less than 2 centimetres had fallen since I got back to camp. We got in there for a few hours. But anyway, I think it was about 10 or 11 when I went to bed, and I was having a great sleep. And the next thing I knew, I woke up to a loud crash and a massive pressure on my chest and arms, and didn't know what the hell was going on.
Anthony fell on you.
And started to have a mild panic. And I was pushing hard against the top of my swag, and then I thought to myself, just calm down, mate. You're in your bloody swag. Of course you can't get out of it. Just unzip your swag. So I unzipped my swag and then realised that it was actually my entire annex and gazebo had collapsed, and there was God knows how much snow on top of me, but I actually couldn't move. And there was this tiny little pocket just above my head and shoulders, this little corner in the bottom of the annex. And I managed to, after probably a good 5 minutes, wiggle myself into that corner, getting my hips out from under the weight of the snow. And then I was able to, luckily, the zippers on my tent annex were also in reach from that spot. And I zipped it open from the top and could see nothing but snow. In the small gap that I dug out with my hand, all I could see was falling snow. I also sleep with my head torch around my neck when I'm out scrub, which was very handy. Anyway, so after about probably 10 to 15 minutes, I scooped enough snow out from the front of the annex and was able to get my head and shoulders out. I then climbed over about 1.5 meters of snow and then stood back and looked at my completely collapsed camp, which, you know, is pretty funny looking back now. Checked my watch, it was about 3 a.m. And then I rather unselfishly thought, geez, I better see what's happening with the other blokes. I'd actually been calling out to James this whole time, his swag was about 1.5 meters from mine, but he reckons he slept through it.
You were not. No, Rob got me good later on. He said, mate, I was calling out for 45 minutes. I was calling out your name to come and save me, and you were just asleep. And I felt like the biggest arsehole in the world. And then he's got this smile on his face. He goes, no, I'm just revving up. I'm like, oh, you bastard, you got me.
No, it was only 15 minutes. Yeah, it was only 15 minutes.
How long without oxygen can you go in the brain before brain damage? It's only 3 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, 3, yeah. Yeah. No.
You're all right, see?
And, anyway, I looked across at James, and he had the most minimalist setup of the lot of us, and he was completely good to go. And I thought, must have just been, the join between my gazebo and tent annex probably had a bit of a low point. Should have sorted that out. Anyway, so I went for a walk around the front of my car and looked over at Anthony, and could see a bunch of bent, broken poles on his rooftop tent. So I thought, geez, I better get over there and see what's going on. And as I went over, I could hear, help, help. I had to go and grab Frodo's shovel and stick it in the side of his net so he could prop his roof up. No, he wasn't calling out for help. He was being quite stoic, to be honest. But I think he was glad when I got there. And then that was when the shenanigans started. So Anthony got up with me, and we kind of had a bit of a yarn. And I looked over at Frodo's 270 awning, and it was absolutely covered in snow. So I tried to knock a bit off it. But then as I looked around and saw Frank's gazelle as well, obviously that needed attention. So I woke Frodo up and said, mate, you need to get out and flick some snow off. And then, within the next 10 minutes, we had a few more broken camps.
Were you in there for that long, Rob?
Yeah, about 10 to 15 minutes. It was, I got into that little corner relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But once I was in that corner, I just couldn't get out there. I couldn't actually unzip the tent door very much.
Yeah, right.
So I could probably unzip a part that was, big enough to fit two hands out and my forearms, but not big enough to get my head and shoulders out.
Yeah.
And I did consider just, ripping the tent open, but at that stage I thought, well, I just need to get out and then I can fix my camp up. I wasn't at the point where I was going to destroy my camp for the week, because at that point I was thinking, we're going to be there for a couple more nights. So I was trying to keep everything good to go. So I spent a bit of time just scooping snow with their hands until I could undo the zip a bit more. But I say it took 10 or 15 minutes. It probably took 30 seconds. I was just panicking.
So, Anthony, let's go over to you, because you run. I know I've copped a lot of shit for my Princess Palace or whatever Frank calls it, and you run the same tent that I do. Can we just say, and we'll talk about it in a sec, but we're running the King's rooftop tent, the Adventure Tourer, the aluminium sort of clamshell one. Mine is fantastic, can withstand a lot of snow with no problems. I just want to put that right now out there. How did yours go? We've heard it's got collapsed. We do things a little bit different. Firstly, I don't sleep the way you do. Can you elaborate on that? And that's not nude. Let's make that clear.
I'm going to go back to the start on this one. And it's I actually was the first one to go to bed. 8 o'clock was when I went to sleep. You boys were still up. The reason I went to bed was because James had brought back that button buck, and I was absolutely filthy and furious, thinking, I've gone away with these absolute machine hunters, and I've come back with nothing but bog stories, getting stuck up behind trees. And anyway, so I'd gone to bed, and by that point, it wasn't snowing that bad. It wasn't snowing that bad at all. And to wake up at past 3 o'clock, as Rob said, to just carnage. So the way I sleep in mine is, if you understand, when a rooftop tent's open, you've got the pinching point. That's where my head sleeps. Idiot, I know. So it was cold, so I had both my hands jammed down the side of my sleeping bag. So as it came down on me, it had pushed my face to the side, and my hand. I wear glasses. I talk about this awesome lighting setup. In heaven forbid if I could find the switch at that point. But anyway, in the dark, I hear this commotion, and I try and find something. I'm like, you're just going to have to try and get out of this. So long story short, I finally wedged one arm out by pushing the zipper open with my elbow. Rob had come over. If it wasn't for Rob, I'd probably still be there right now. It was lucky that Rob had come over at that point. And, I just felt like a survival story was starting at that point. Like I had to put my hand out to reach out and feel that Rob was there. Anyways, long story. Rob held it open long enough for me to be able to slide my ass out. Despair and disbelief as to what was happening around me. So the struts that hold the rooftop tent up bent like bananas. And I think the only reason it didn't fall faster was because I had the thing zipped up, and the airlock in there made it come down a bit slower. But looking at how much snow was on top of the roof, we had 250 mil of snow that night. Like, it was just absolutely crazy. And from that point, we had gotten out, and then it was me and Rob together assessing the carnage. And I'd found my glasses, which was good. And then we obviously had seen Frodo's little pallet going under. So we tried to wake him up. That took about 2 minutes. And then we'd walk over to Frank, and anyway, you can let him tell the story, but yeah.
All right, before that, we get to that part. Rob came over to me and woke me up And I stuck my head out. And he goes, you might want to clear your awning. Nah, yours looks pretty good. I was like, yeah, I shook it off when I got up for a earlier. And then I just jumped back in and started to go back to sleep. And I'm laying there and I'm hearing all this noise. And I think there was a car start up. And I'm like, what the freaking hell's going on out here? So I open up again. I stick my head out. I'm looking around, surveying what's happening, and went, holy shit, this ain't good. And then I was, before that happened, I think about an hour or so before we all got up, which was about 3 o'clock. I don't know if you guys heard it, but a tree snapped in half. And it was freaking loud, and to the point, like, we had a lot of snow, but there was also a significant amount of wind, and it scared the living crap out of me because I sat there and went, Jesus Christ, that sounded super close. And it didn't sound like a branch coming down. It sounded like a massive tree, which we actually found, I think, on day 3 when we went back up the mountain. And I was with you and Frodo, and I reckon that was at least a good couple of meters in diameter, that the tree base where it snapped. That was a big ass tree. That was a major snap. It had to have been that one because that noise. So yeah, I'm surveying. Rob just, I think, ignored me and said, what an idiot, and just got back into it, so going through what needed to be done, and went over to Frankie. What was going on with Frankie?
Well, while you were sleeping in your princess tail waiting for Prince Charming to come up and kiss you awake, we were actually dealing with a situation.
That wasn't an invitation for James. Let's just clarify.
Come on.
I was halfway up the ladder, Matt.
Taking longer because he's shorter.
That's right.
From up the top of mine, you'd need a parachute to get down, buddy.
I was hoping you'd have one in there.
Right. Well, earlier on, I heard some Brumbies behind camp running up and down, and I also did hear that tree crash. And then I heard someone walking around. I thought it might have been someone getting out of their swag to take a leak. And then I heard my brother walk up and say, Frank, you might want to get out because your gazebo's collapsing. So that woke me and got me into gear straight away. So unzipped the swag and looked up, and sure enough, the $89 marquee from Kings was looking a bit sad. So I quickly got out of there and realised that was the only thing holding that up at the point in time was the fold-out tables from Bunnings. That was holding it up. So anyway, the first thing I thought of was, I hope Joan's okay. She's in the back of the ute. So I went around there and cleared the snow off the top, opened up the back of the ute and opened up her crate, and she came out and stretched, and she felt like a nice piece of warm bread that just come out of the oven, and she was all happy. So I threw her in the front of the car in the floor well, and she just sat there and went back to sleep as if nothing else had happened. That's fair enough. I then decided to see if I can drop one side of the gazebo to get some of the snow off, and just dropping that one side pretty much just absolutely stuffed the marquee once and for all, and just turned into a crab, and just everything just flung out, and it just turned to absolute custard. So that was my marquee gone. So I left that there.
It was blizzard conditions and you were still in a T-shirt and shorts.
Yeah, everyone keeps mentioning that. Just because some of us have got more thermal insulation than others.
I'm pretty sure I've seen you sweating too, Frank.
That was frustration. That's what that was, mate.
I don't know what from, because I was actually over there shoveling the snow off his canopy while he was giving instructions. I'll tell you what, you ever need a job, mate, council worker, you are the perfect man, all right? You could hit them up and get a job in a heartbeat.
The only reason why I was trying to guide just because you're putting holes in the top of my marquee. That's the only reason why. But
that was broken.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, that doesn't matter. We didn't need it nonetheless. So, and then we all had a huddle together, didn't we? We all got to the centre and had a discussion about what we were going to do about the situation, seeing as the snow was still falling.
I think while this was all happening, James was still asleep in his swag. I don't think he worked. Actually, there was a point there that I was over under his swag, knocking the snow off his canopy. And I think, I can't remember who I was with, but we were talking and James just slept through the whole thing. He was out.
No, I remember that. I do remember that. And I just thought, the boys are being nice and knocking the snow off for me. So to just step back a bit, for me, my experience, because my camp didn't collapse at 3:30. Not that it wasn't. I wouldn't have made the morning anyway, because the boys said the legs were buckling on my gazebo too. So I was just lucky. I paid the extra $50 for a little bit step up in gazebo, I think. So, but it wouldn't have made the morning. But I do remember because I got the deer the first afternoon, so I'm just like, yeah, it's snowing before bed. This is cool, but you know what? I don't need to get up stupid early in the morning, so I'll just wake up whenever. So when I woke up, I sort of half woke up to a car starting, as has been said, and people talking and stuff. And when you sleep in a swag, you know, it can be pretty dark, even in daylight. So I'm just like, I had no idea what time it was. So I just figured, it must be about 6 a.m. or something. The boys are keen. Good on them. Get out there and get after it. And I thought, I'll wait for another hour or something. I'll get up whenever I'm ready. And then I heard more talking, and I roll over and I look at my phone and it says 3:36 or something like that. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing? What's going on? And then I get starting to actually listen to what they're talking about. And I go, and then Matt came in and was bashing the snow off my gazebo. And I'm like, I better chuck my head out of here. I don't really want it. It's 3:30 in the morning. I knew we went to bed with snow. So, poked my head out and there's just destruction and people running around and cars running and lights on. I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Rob comes over and goes, geez, we got some camps collapsed here. And I look over at Rob's, I'm like, yep, that's collapsed.
Definitely collapsed.
Can I just say, as much crap as my Princess Tower cops, I think it could be the Princess Fortress, because that bad boy did not bend an inch. Like, it was solid. I was right. I was comfy. I should have gone back to bed. Anyway, let's forget about that. So we had our campfire chat. Again, standing around there, Frodo went and stood next to Rob. I got no idea why. I was just sitting there. You know, it was hurting. I was almost getting whiplash from having to look up at Rob and down at Frodo while we're talking. But hey, I mean, that's fine. we're having our little campfire meeting. Well, not a campfire. Rob did an amazing job of the campfire. I think like the flames were at like a good 1.5 meters at one point. I look over at the campfire after all this chaos and us trying to shovel snow, and the fire's like buried under 30 centimeters of snow. It's dead. It's gone. Game over. And I was like, "Oh, this is an experience." I don't know if anyone picked up at this point. I was having an absolute blast. None of my shit had broken, and I'm just, this is an experience. And you know, even there was a film that's gone up. I put it on there with Rob sledging me, saying this doesn't happen. You know, at the Hunters Campfire Hunt Camp. Hey, look, it's something I'll remember forever. It was really good. Sure. So we made the call. Rob, you said, let's get out of here, and I think that was a smart play. Getting out of there. We had, before we got up, you mentioned snow chains, I think, in the group chat. And I believe I was the first one to shut that down and say, we won't need them. In fairness, we didn't need them. But we decided to get out there. Rob led the way, thank God. If Frank did it, I think we would have got bogged and stuck. So I'm glad you took charge, Rob, and led the way. Talk to us through that, mate.
Yeah, well, the decision to break camp was driven by a little Zolio leather update.
No, I thought when you said little, I thought Frodo. Sorry.
So I grabbed one of those after the camp with Ian and Jono and that, and it's the first time I've used it. And we all checked the weather on the way down at Macca's in Yass, and there was snow forecast for that night, but not that much. And then there was another snowfall not forecast until the morning we were leaving. And when I checked it at 3 o'clock, whatever it was, 3:30 that morning, it actually said we were in for another 24 hours of what we just had. So that was kind of the driver to break camp.
Yeah.
I think if everyone's camp had survived, we at least would have just pushed lower. We would have just dropped a couple of 100 meters in elevation and found another camp. But because I was essentially down to swag only, which we could have made work. But if you don't have to be uncomfortable, why be uncomfortable? So we decided to just push into town and kind of regroup a bit. And then that was when the next chapter started. It was actually a relatively simple drive out. So despite the snow depth, the grip was quite good. I think for me, leading was probably easiest, but for everyone else, you kind of just sit in the tracks and bounce around in them until you get to the next turn. There were quite a few of those small type pines that had been pushed down across the track just from the weight of the snow that was on them. So other than dragging a few of those off, we got back to the tarmac pretty quick. And then, we got down a bit, what was the name of that road?
Elliott Way.
Elliott Way, yeah. We started pushing down west on Elliott Way down to Tumba. And then, all of a sudden I saw these hazard lights in the middle of the road. And there was a two-wheel drive 1980s Datsun or something like that van sitting in the middle of the road. And I thought, I better go have a look what's going on here, and pulled up, and there were two wheel tracks going around the van, one either side. So there'd been two vehicles passed since the car was parked there, and there was a drop off either side of the road at that point. So it was a bit of a precarious spot. And I had a look in and didn't think there was anyone in there because I looked in the back assuming they'd be in the bed, and then thought I better just check the cab, and knocked on the window and saw our two French backpacker mates, which are probably the most stereotypical French backpackers you've ever seen. One quite nice looking woman and her quite nice looking partner. I think they were a bit, maybe they were brother and sister, who knows. But they were a bit shocked to see me, but I think a bit grateful as well. And from there I won't tell the long story, but they didn't want to leave the car, and we'd had that Zolia report, and we'd said to them, it's not going to get any better in the next 24 hours. They were trying to push through to Mount Selwyn, starting a job that day, and obviously they were never going to get through. So we eventually convinced them to turn back to Tumba. We had another convoy drive past us going the other way in that time, and they said the grader was on the way up the mountain, which came past at a really good time. And old mate, instead of just cutting up one side of the road, scratched us out both sides so we could try and turn their vehicle around, which is a bit of a mission. We ended up getting the big fellas on the back, pushing the wheels without grip around while we tried to pull it around with two-wheel drive. But we eventually got them turned around and got them back down to a bit of black tar and eventually back into Tumba.
All right, there's some details you left out there that I need to get out here. Once again, a second rescue, and Frankie just leapt into action. I've never seen him move that quick to get down there. I don't know if you think there was like a French croissant down there or something. I don't know, but he was legging it.
It was just Anthony and I down there for probably about 15, 20 minutes, and then I jumped back on the UHF and said, lads, this is probably one of the most attractive French women I've seen in a long time. And then I heard the car door slam. I could hear the snow crunching.
And Frank just appeared.
And then, there Frank was, just in the headlights. And he said, which way? And I said, well, obviously down that way, mate. And off he went.
He's like, here, would you like some pasta?
And that was it.
Hey, Frank just went sliding on down like a little penguin.
Penguin. I noticed Frank's on mute right now.
I had to be on mute for that laugh, man. I had to be on mute.
It's swearing.
I went down there and I was just going to push the van off the road just so we could get through. I didn't realise there were people in there until we got there. But anyway, it was good that we stopped and helped them. The reason why you couldn't see me, Anthony, is because I was sitting up you couldn't see above that window there. It's just, I should have boosted you up to have a look, mate.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
But anyway, it was good that we stopped because two people had driven around them, and also when their car conked out, we noticed when we actually did move their car and turned it around, underneath it was actually still tar. So like they were stuck there since 6 or 7 hours, whatever it was, when we got there.
And they weren't dressed for the cold.
Well, they'd been there that long that their hazards had sent their battery flat. That's how long they'd been there. We had to jump start the car before we could even start moving it. So
yeah, that's right.
And they had, I don't know, they had enough cold gear. They had one doona between them, a jumper each. Definitely would want to see them there for another 24 hours.
Yeah, not great. They definitely weren't prepared. So, like, things happen for reasons, and I think us making that call to get back down there and help them out was a good move. And then sorted that out, kept going down the mountain. Before we go through that, Frodo, your 270 Dacia awning with sidewalls that you were just – this was the first trip out. You were so happy for that thing. And I will say, when we were up there having Frank's spaghetti. It wasn't al dente. Let's just make that clear. But when we were sitting there eating, we were talking about it. It was great. The sidewalls wrapped us in nice. It was amazing. What happened to that before we move on getting down into town?
I think it actually, going off what Rob was saying before, I think it actually only started to collapse not long after Rob had gotten Anthony out of his tent. So I think it held up. I think it was just we were 5 minutes too late. And it didn't really sort of collapse, just the poles that hold it up, they kind of just sort of, went back in basically. And then one bent and one of the rafter arms copped a little bit of damage, but that was sort of about it. It had no tears, no nothing. I didn't have the weight of the snow on me or anything like that. It was a bit disappointing, brand new, first trip out and it already copped damage, but, I wasn't hurt and I didn't have to sort of claw my way out of snow, so that was good. And other than that, I mean, it was pretty good. And yeah, the walls did really well at night while we was all sitting under there having a drink and eating the pasta that Frank had cooked. That wasn't cooked that well, Franco, was it? Blaming the cold.
There's going to be a lot of beeping in this, I reckon. A lot of beep. Oh, no, I'm not blaming the cold. I'm blaming your candle in the wind bloody cooker, mate. Wherever you got that from, throw that away.
Hey, feel free to use your own next time.
I'm going to have to, I reckon. But in all seriousness, that Darshay 270 awning would have been holding up a couple of 100 kilos of snow.
Oh, for sure.
Before it
started even showing a bit of collapsing. So the thing's bloody strong, mate. It's strong.
Yeah, there was a lot of weight on it. I was pretty impressed with it. So
I will say the other thing, if you haven't jumped over to the socials, get over and check out the videos, because one of the funniest ones I've seen is Frodo there shoveling snow off the side awnings, and the snow's nearly up to his shoulders. Yeah, that wasn't even planned, but it was bloody funny. I loved it. Absolute gold. So we got back down into Tumba, gone to my favourite cafe, and we went, let's have a coffee, have a think about what's going on. By this time it was like, I think 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, because it took us a good hour and a half with those backpackers, maybe a bit longer. Got back down there, had a coffee, had a chat, trying to work out what we were going to do next. At this stage, they had left multiple times and returned multiple times for map advice that they just continually didn't like. And now, obviously, they didn't know who they were talking to with Rob from Athena Spatial. And we'll talk about your maps and special maps for a certain someone that got special maps. I'm not going to point fingers or name people. That wouldn't be right, Frank. So they kept coming back. What were they doing there, Rob?
Oh, mate, they just, first they were trying to show me their Google Maps in French, which, I don't speak French. I definitely don't read French, but I kind of matched up what I knew with what I could see. And yeah, they were very adamant on just punching through the way we'd just come from. I'm not sure that they could quite comprehend that that was the same road or not. And they just thought it might have been a different way. But, I don't know who came in over the top eventually. I tried to be really nice to them first, and I think someone stepped in and said, look, mate, you just need to go the bloody long way around. So we sent them on a good 6-hour detour, but there's no way they were getting through Elliott Lake, and the fastest way around was, the 6-hour drive instead of the 1.5-hour drive. So after 3 or 4 attempts of the same conversation, they eventually got the idea, I think, and off they went.
Well, we haven't seen them on the news, so that's a positive. Mind you, they could still be out there frozen somewhere, so we might not know for a while. Who knows? But
Matt, I think the reason they kept coming back, because they were amazed to see a Sasquatch out in the wild. Their very first Australian Sasquatch.
It's a Sam Squanch?
That's it, a Sam Squanch.
Bob, you said that they were shaking. I'm starting to think that they were shaking because they seen a Sasquatch walk up to them
with a bright orange hunter's campfire.
Can I interrupt real quick? I thought, when we found the backpackers stuck on the road, and Rob went and saw them, and I think we missed a really good opportunity, and maybe probably would have gone over their heads, but Rob could have gone Hey, have you guys ever seen a movie called Wolf Creek?
I was trying to be super smiley when I talked to them, just in case I had already seen
All
it.
these guys with guns have just pulled up in their cars to help us, but yeah, they were adamant of getting back up that hill.
Can we just clarify for any listeners out there, the guns were locked away in the car out of sight.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when
we weren't
James
carrying
says
them,
we were not carrying guns walking down Elliott Way, just we want that made clear.
Frank's two biceps.
Yeah. Frank was walking down there rolling his sleeves up, ready for a fight.
You're making me out to be a violent man. I don't appreciate it.
I reckon when that the little French bloke seen you, Frank, that's why he huddled back under the doona, mate. He thought, I ain't wrestling a bear today.
Poor guy. He was so shaken up. I don't know whether. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, but anyway, it must have been.
I think he was that shaken up. That's why he let her drive. He saw Frank and he goes, "Oh man, I can't operate this machine anymore. I'm scared."
Oh, jeez.
So we went back down to the cafe. We're having a coffee. We're having a coffee. Coffee. Oh, I'm all over it. We're having a coffee and we're having a chat. At that stage, I'm looking around at everybody, feeling a little bit guilty. I've organised this thing and it's gone to so quickly. You know, Frank has done all these things to get like 20 different special maps from Rob, and you know, we can't even use them anymore because we've had to evacuate where he got his little special secret places. He'd also called 1 million people to try and get spots, and the only thing he didn't have, in my opinion, was a helicopter to aerial cull. I think that was the only thing he did not have for this trip. And then, so we're trying to work it out. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he started to go white, like pale. Like it looked like he just got in the snow and just rubbed it all over him, because I think that's when it set in that now he's got nothing. He's going to have to put the Samba knowledge to the test in fresh ground with no help. That's what that was my feeling. I think that was one of mine. And then we decided, I don't know how we decided this too, because Rob, you had a swag still, but Anthony, your camper was gone. We're trying to discuss what happened. And there was one person that was like, I'll get a cabin. And I was quite amazed at that, because that person still had a swag that was perfectly good. Frank, you elected to get straight into that cabin so quickly. Why was that? Was that really because you were looking after your brother?
I was trying to find another travel agent, to be honest with you, Matt. That's the first thing I was trying to do. The one I implored, unfortunately, I don't know where it was rating from, but it's just gone down a couple of stars, I'll tell you that much. I do remember you saying, I've got a mate here in Tumbo. He's got a shed that we might be able to sleep in. But I did see the cabin there, and the cabin, it was rather cheap, and it had hot showers because I was near frozen to death.
It's because you're in a T-shirt, mate.
Well, that could have been a reason too. But anyway, and I just realised that we just needed to make the most of our hunting time, and we weren't going to go back up there, so we needed to stay somewhere. So I just elected to get the cabin, and it worked out really well, seeing as we spent the next 2 nights in there anyway.
No, I agree. I think it was a great call. Rob was all over, yep, let's get that apartment. You were straight in there, and I think it's a smart move. James and I were the dumb ones. We went and huddled up in the caravan park on the grass, and we ran our tents, and ours was still good to go. And we wanted to, embrace the camping experience. And I'll touch on that later how I found James one night on returning from hunting. But that was good. We had a really good time in your cabin. Nice little cooking accommodation. Actually, no, we need to go back. I'm sorry, but I've got to drop this because you definitely dropped it. When we got to that cafe, I had to go to the toilet. And someone beat me to it.
It's all going downhill now.
Anthony, you got there before I did. I'll tell you what, Russia, if you're listening, if you want a new tool or weapon against Ukraine, speak to Anthony to bottle whatever that shit is that he had in that toilet, because holy crap, I nearly died. I was in there for 10 minutes. I think I passed out for 8 before I worked out I'm cooked here. I don't think I can ever show my face back in that cafe. Mate, what the hell's going on with you? You need help.
Listen, I'm going to defend myself. I wasn't the only one that needed to shit. You needed to, and so did Frodo. All right? Fact of the traumatic experience we had 4 hours prior. So I apologize. That my anxiety had come out in my turd. I apologize that I found the toilet first. you were second. Don't forget, Anthony Frodo went after you. So,
hey, Frodo, that smell was not me, mate. All right. Like, can we honestly say that experience scared the shit out of you, Anthony? Because, mate, it came out and it smelled like it was, oh my God. Anyway, Frodo, you were after us. Oh my God. Oh, how did you cope, mate? Because I battled in there.
Oh, look, I've been behind the toilet with Anthony and Frank many times, so I was used to it, mate. And you're lucky that it wasn't Frank you went in after, because you would have been on the floor before you even got in there, mate. Because let me tell you, when we got into our cabin, Frank decided to drop a sneaky one, and I was ready to burn it to the ground.
there was nothing sneaky about it. It punched me straight in the nostrils.
Man, this makes for some good radio. Like, how far have you come here? Look at this. Isn't this fantastic? This is cutting edge stuff we're talking about here, isn't it? Absolutely cutting edge.
So we had the cabin. It worked out perfect. I'll be honest. State of Origin was on the Wednesday night. So not only did we get to stay there, we got to hit up State of Origin. I will say one thing. I know Frank's given me some shit in the past about taking vitamins and all the crap. He, hits me up about all that. Mate, I needed more magnesium because I was cramping in the chest that hard from laughing so much from the stirring going on. It was absolute gold. I'm glad it happened like that so we could actually spend time in the cabin because it was bloody funny. So let's go into day 2 because obviously things had gone astray. We'd come back down the mountain, very little sleep. That did not stop anyone because we all wanted to get out for a hunt. So we picked new spots. I think Frank somehow got secret maps for them. But either way, we picked new spots. We went out. And this is where I'm going to throw to Frodo and Anthony because you guys came with me. So, look, I just want to say I am a team player. As much crap as I put on Frank, I wanted to see him get a Samba. And I thought, you know what? If he's hunting with his brother and cousin, 3 people walking through the bush is very loud. I don't want any excuses from him. He's got all this secret stuff and Errol Mason's course, Errol on speed dial, FaceTiming Errol before bed, all that sort of stuff was going on. I want to make sure that he can't say, oh, you guys were the ones that scared them off. So the 3 of us pulled up, 3 different cars. Frankie had Joan. I'm going to question her ability. Rob, you might not want her, all right? I'm just going to throw that out right now because the 3 of us, you 2 have never shot a deer in a state forest. I've only got 2. So let's say minimal experience, no tools, no extra help, no indicating dog. We didn't need an indicating dog. We had indicating us, boys, because we found a wallow within, 5 minutes?
Yep.
If that. And then the indicating dog was walking around in circles around Frank. At one stage, we've got video footage of him looking up in the air. Now, I have not seen a Samba in the sky. I might be wrong here, but I don't think so. I think there was even an issue when we pointed it out and said, Frank, wallow here. And I think Jones took about 10 minutes to find it after we given him directions. I mean,
that's because she was into Brumbies.
She was indicating Brumbies. That's correct. I forgot about that. He was about to pull the trigger. Oh, he was about to pull the trigger. Frank, talk to us about the Brumbies.
Where do I start here?
I want to know how Frodo identifies, what sex the Brumbies are.
That's a great question. Let's take it over to him.
Well, James, you got to look for the 5th leg, mate. And if you find the 5th leg, you will know that it's a stallion.
A stallion, that's it, yeah. And what was your nickname in the group chat?
Shetland Tony. I'm proud of that one. I will wear that badge with honour.
I would too. I reckon it's a clever nickname, mate.
Just to explain the whole why Frodo looks at horse penises is because, we were there glassing, Anthony and I are glassing up, and we found these 2 Brumbies that literally would not leave us alone. They just kept coming closer and closer and wanting to hang out. Then we met them. We met up later in the day. Frodo's there and he's glassing. He goes, "Oh, it's a stallion." And I'm like, "How do you tell?" Like, and he goes, "Because I'm looking at its dick." And I don't know if it's a height thing. That's why I couldn't see it. I don't know. That's what happened. So, no, fair call. Well played. But let's get back to Frankie and the Brumby.
Right. So we all got out, and then Joan started indicating towards the pines. And so I thought, I'm going to follow the dog. And you three stooges went down the creek line, and you found a wallow. Surprise, surprise. But anyway, I literally walked up 100 meters, and Joan was in front, and she just stopped and looked into the pines and cocked her head to the side, and then she was standing still and looked back at me and then looked back towards the pines. And I looked up and I seen this brown animal. It would have been about 60 meters away, 50 meters away. And me not wanting a repeat of what happened last time, I snuck up a little bit closer, and I had the scope on the top of this animal, and I was slowly inching forward a bit more. And I thought, this could be a bloody horse. If it's a deer, that'd be great, because I was already had the back straps out, ready to slap you with it. But no sooner I thought that, this horse turns around, looks straight into the scope, and I'm like, well, can't shoot that. So I put the rifle down. But the interesting thing was, the stallion seen Joan and was trotting up to her, doing this prancing sort of maneuver, and she actually did this slow woof at it and actually stopped and looked at her, and she just stood stock still. And I thought, oh, well, that's a pretty good trick for her to do. If only it was a Samba deer that did that. But anyway, that's fine. And then so I stepped out of the bush, and it's gone, oh my God, it's a Sam Squatch, and then took off with the rest of the herd.
So you'd come back down, because we've done our circle, found the wallow, went, this is too easy, we need a new spot. We got honked by the Samba too, a hind. And so we sent Frankie in with Joan, because we thought, well, she needs some help. We'll support her. We'll indicate for the indicating dog. Here it is. Go this way. And she went down there. You did follow up and had a little bit of luck in seeing the hind.
Yeah. Well, just before that, I will let you know that Joan found the other 2 wallows, which I'm sure you would have found if you were walking there anyway. But there was 3 wallows there within about 30 meters of each other. So definitely a good spot there. We crossed that little creek and went up the other side, and there was a track there, and we took that up. And we went up about probably another about 200 meters up the track, and as we're walking, she just turned right straight away and looked straight in, and as she looked straight in, I've looked up to where she looked at, and sure enough, there was a hind, and she took off, and I was happy, elated, and sad at the same time. So that was a bit painful. But that was the deer that honked you, so that worked out well. She tracked that, and then went up a little bit more further on that track and bumped a small yearling. It was either doe or button buck, but didn't get a good look at it. It just hopped off, and that was it. It was probably about 20 meters away, but the bush was that thick. It just jumped down into the little creek and took off. So that was good. There was 2 deer, and I was quite happy with that.
Before we move on and find out what Rob and James got up to on that morning, I just do have to clarify here. When Frankie's saying I saw deer, I do have questions, because at one point there, we were back in at the caravan park, and this majestic bird.
Did I get a chance to defend myself on this one too?
This majestic bird has flown over the top of us, and Frankie's gone, is that a spawn? It was a bin chicken.
I believe the proper term is ibis.
The sun was behind the bird. The bird made a weird noise. I'd never heard an ibis make a noise before. And then when it came into view properly, I realized what it was. So the moral of the story is, do not say what you're thinking, especially in front of the 3 stooges, because they will hold on to it for eternity.
Oh, absolute gold. All right, Rob, what were you up to that morning? Because we were having a lot of laughs at Frank's expense.
Yeah, so I'd actually decided before I went to bed the night before that I was going to head over this side of the forest, and I'd identified this little clearing that was in a bit of a depression. So I was trying to get my way into there, and the wind was pretty constant that morning from the south, so I kind of went around to the north side, and it was quite thick. It was quite thick getting from any track to that clearing, and yeah, there was just no easy way in without making a heap of noise. But I decided to just keep my face into the wind, and eventually made my way down to the edge of this clearing and found a couple of game trails. surrounding it on the way, and found some relatively decent sign for the previous 2 or 3 days, and a heap of feed. Because a lot of the feed I saw, like the blackberry and the areas that could be picked from the ground, looked quite bare in some of the other areas I went in the forest later on, but this area seemed to have a bit of recent fresh food, which is pretty good. I eventually pushed through the clearing and then found this awesome game trail going north and south up into it, which had the wind been the other way, it would be a great way to go in there. So didn't see any deer in the morning. I actually didn't see any deer that day at all. But in the morning I found, scouted out that really good spot. And if I was to drive another 4.5 days down to Bago, and then in the Arvo I went onto the eastern side of a bit of a high feature, and I've never really hunted the pines before. So I decided to just have a look through the pines there and see what was going on. It's an area where there's probably been a good 3 or 4 years of regrowth. So the pines are only a couple of meters, maybe 2 to 4 meters high, and that was a really good spot. There was a heap of feed within it. It was quite rocky on top of the feature. There was heaps of fresh sign, but I just didn't see anything. I moved quite well through the pines, I thought, and then when I pushed down to the native bush that joins it, so I'm pretty confident that the deer just weren't there at the time. It was the eastern side of the hill in the afternoon, so I wasn't necessarily expecting to see them. What I was actually trying to do was move through that pine and then look into the native bush area, what was a bunch of clearings on the map. But yeah, there was just a heap of eucalyptus and sapling regrowth. I had a bit of a yarn with one of the locals, and yeah, he said since the fires have come through, that area has just gone super thick. But I definitely gathered some spots. If I was to go there again, I'll go back to them because I think they'll produce.
I think the whole snowy mountain, doesn't matter where you go. There's plenty of deer down there, plenty of sign. You just got to get onto it and spend some time in there. Our whole thing got turned upside down. Like, we had so many spots. We scouted, we were good, and then to throw it upside down, I was just happy we got out there and found wallows and found some sign. And we found some more sign. We had a cracker where we went, but before we get into our Arvo hunt, because some funny things happened there, James, what did you do on day 1 or day 2? Sorry.
Yeah, not a great deal, to be honest.
I do remember what you did. You fed me my own buck, you asshole.
Got a picture of that too.
So, okay, let's address that issue. Following on from when I met Matt in Maragal State Forest last year's rut, 2023, and I went out the first afternoon, I shot a buck, and then the next morning I went down to collect him, and I shot another buck that happened to be one that Matt was trying to get that same morning, unbeknownst to me.
Lies.
But we were kilometres apart. But anyway, that's how it worked out. So I still had a bit of that in the freezer, vac sealed in the deep freeze. It's good for years in there. So I thought, I should make some venison jerky to take down for the trip, because it's always good. It's light. It's good protein in your pack while you're hunting, And it's always good to share around the campfire or while you're having a beer or whatever. And I thought, this is the buck that I shot when I was down with Matt. That's heaps funny. I'll be able to feed him back the buck that I stole from him.
Feed it to him.
Pretty savage. So, yeah, I made some jerky with that same buck, the buck in question, and I took it down there that trip. And I actually thought, it's good luck, like ground yourself with the earth and connect yourself to nature and all that kind of stuff, and feed Matt the buck that he didn't get to shoot. And that might give him some good jujus. I don't know. He wasn't happy about it, but he tasted some and he liked it.
It was good jerky.
Okay, firstly, let's clarify here. You fed me some deer. Oh, I've got some venison jerky. Have a go. Have some. So I'm taking it out and I'm looking at this little sandwich bag and I'm like, there's writing on it. Why does that look like my name? And I'm reading it and it says Matt's Buck. I mean, just rub salt into the wounds, James.
There was a smiley face on the.
That makes all the difference. Yeah, no, good emoji.
It means good intentions.
Love it. It was actually good jerky too, so I'll take that any day of the week. Well, it didn't bring good juju because we decided, me and the three amigos, or whatever Frank's calling us.
Three stooges.
Well, I'd say three indicators because we did better than Joan. But hey, anyway, let's continue.
Call yourself what you want.
So we drove around the forest. We wanted to check out some new spots, and Anthony and I did a mad hike. Frodo disappeared. he got hay fever.
Yep.
It's, well, I don't know what happened. We'd only been walking for about 30 seconds and he started sneezing. So we,
Yep.
He does that. He gets into character.
The hunter's campfire all over again.
he's allergic to state forest. He's a private land hunter through and through.
That's it. I was out there with you peasants.
So we've driven up to do some scouting and try and find some spots for the next day or the afternoon. And we've driven through, a bit of water on the road, but it was a decent road. Like it was a black line, good track, no issues. So we got both cars through, gone up, found some spots. I was a little disappointed. We saw a big pig run across the road in front of us. And I've turned to the boys and said, you'll want to chase it. And, Frodo's talked up how much he loves shooting a pig.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting him to just jump at this, like, keen as a bean. And he's gone, what'd you say, Frodo?
I can't actually remember. I think I said something along the lines of, I'm happy just to stay here or something.
I want to go to sleep. I think that was.
Yeah, it was pretty close to that. Yeah, I think I was pretty wrecked, and he did look like a nice pig, and I was a bit disappointed with myself, but the heart was willing, but the body just wasn't.
So we've headed back down. We went, you know what? Not a bad call because we'd been up since 3 a.m. shoveling snow, packing everything up and whatnot. So we headed back the way we came, and I've led the way. And I don't know what happened. I'm just going to put it out there. We went through the same track that we drove in on, and I've just felt a drop. The whole arse end just dropped out of my car, and I got bogged. And I mean, I got the bogging of all boggings, I reckon. Like, it was that sloppy and muddy. It was worse than Anthony in the toilet. It was just
up to the diff.
It was one of those things. My left wheel, if you've seen the photos on Facebook, it is ridiculously low. The axle and my rear bar are stuck in the mud. All I can say is thank God that we had a second car there so I could winch off the car. Frodo, you showed us a great little trick to get us out. Mate, that was unreal. Do you want to explain what we did?
So all we did for safety is instead of pulling your winch cable out and then just hooking it onto the tow ball, I actually took the tongue out of my rear bar, took the hook off your winch cable, so we just had the eyelet, put that in to the socket there where the tongue sits in the tow ball, and put the pin back through it. So basically, we could pull you out, didn't have to worry about the tow ball snapping off and going through a windshield or something like that. It was safe. And I mean, like that pin, the cars are rated to 3.5 ton towing, so that pin wasn't going to go anywhere. But yeah, we pulled your winch out, locked it in, and it was literally just seconds and you were out. So it was pretty quick and easy.
Honestly, if you weren't there, I would have been absolutely stuffed. So I'm glad for the rescue. Unlike Frank, thank you for the rescue, boys. I'm man enough to admit when I need a rescue and when someone comes along and saves me. Maybe learn something, Frank. I don't know.
When a hero comes along.
That was gold. Pulled straight out. We got back into it. I don't even know how that happened. I'll tell you what, it was a deep hole for the middle of the road. And we must have skirted it going through it because neither of us felt it, and we copped it on the way back. So, all right, just before we continue here, I got to say, Anthony, if you guys ever want to go for a hunt with Anthony, it is one of the best things ever because you don't need to take your windicator. All right. His vape steam just shows you which way the wind is coming from every single time. And he especially picked out a flavor, which was it pine tree? I think you were smoking.
Blackberry.
Blackberry.
It's good for the Sambo coming.
But it was gone. There was plenty of times I'm standing there and this mist and fog just comes flowing at the back of my, there's the wind there. We need to go this way. It was gold. I appreciate that. It was made hunting a lot easier. All right, let's get into day 3. We had a good laugh that evening. And then we got into day 3, which was Origin Day. We were pumped for that one. Just to clarify, because there was a lot of anger from Rob is he is a Blues fan, although he lives
That's
in
right.
enemy territory.
Yeah.
So I just want to make that clear on the podcast because he got called a maroon a couple of times. I thought he was going to punch on, and glad he didn't. So it was one of those things. But day 3, we got out there. Rob came with us. Probably a silly move to come with the 3 indicate. In fairness, we've indicated well, boys. So Rob came with us, and he went out on his own. We sent him a certain way, and mate, you were successful. So let's get into that one.
Yeah, well, you guys pulled up at the little spot that had some pretty good observation down on some nice fringe. And I was the second car in, and I don't know if you remember, but as I pulled my backpack across the front of the car, I let off a nice beep on the horn, which I think you guys were pretty appreciative of. Just as we got out of the car. But anyway, we got the...
Just letting everything know we were there.
Hey, guys, we're here. Beep.
That was why that fellow ran back in. I think, was that fellow you spotted that ran into the bush at that stage? Was it?
It did.
Yeah, I think it came towards a beep, yeah. It was coming to check out what happened.
It was a flex mark. You've done well getting a flex mark as a horn. Good job.
And, after that, I thought, geez, I've probably ruined your hunt, so this spot now I'm going to head off on my own. And
you stay here. I thought you said, isn't that what you said?
I had a bit of a look at the map and found another nice little bit of fringe that was getting the morning sun far away. So I went and had a walk and sat on that for about an hour or so, but nothing happened. And then, I came back over and you and Anthony were gone and Frodo was still there where I'd left you. And I woke him up. And then, he got out of the car and had a yarn, and actually, I had my back to the little area he'd been watching, and he goes, "Oh, did you see that?" And I turned around, and I couldn't see a thing. So I'll give him a bit of credit here. He spotted this little ball at about 350 meters, and all you could see was the back of it. He talked me onto it real quick. I got the binos up and had a look, and it was just on a ridge line, and it just went over the back. And I said, grab the 6.5 out or whatever he had with the $10,000 scope on it. And he said, "No, mate, if you want to go for a walk, it's all yours." I said, "Yeah, all right." So I went up and around the top into the wind, and came over and put a bit of stalk on. I ended up popping up to my left at about 100 meters. I expected it to be more to my front. It took me a while to get around up the way I went, trying to go right out of the way. And anyway, I saw him at the corner of my eye, and he was about to drop over another little ridge line into a bit of a depression, and managed to get a pretty good shot as he was quartering away, and he did a bit of a 3 or 5 meter circle dance and then fell. And at the time, I didn't know he was a boar, and he wasn't that big, to be honest. He was probably, I won't make a guess at his weight. I'll let someone else have a crack at that. But I strolled over and couldn't see his teeth sticking out of his cheek, so I just assumed it was a sow, even though he had pretty good shoulders on him. And I looked up further down the opening and thought, gee, that little bit of fringe country there looks pretty good. So I just went and sat down, walked down the hill a bit and found a good spot to sit and watch that. And then Anthony came out of the back about 20 minutes later after he'd heard the shot and said, "Oh, mate, that's a nice little ball." Yeah, I was pretty happy to get that. I put his jaw at home, which my boys are pretty stoked to see. And that's my first state forest ball. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, very nice. Well done. So we actually went on a journey, and I used the word journey for a particular reason in the morning. So you mentioned you mentioned his 6.5 Creedmoor, and so the 6.5 Creedmoor, it's decked out with a brilliant scope. It's heavy. It's definitely not a state forest rifle, and we were glassing obviously a lot of open area, looking for that fringe. And then what happened? I don't even know how this worked out, but Anthony and I, honestly, it did feel like Lord of the Rings. You cemented the name Frodo because it felt like a freaking quest. We were carrying his rifle, walking up and down these bloody mountains while he's just strolling along with his little hands in his pockets, nice and warm, and we're slogging this bloody 10-kilo rifle around. Honestly, I dead set. I thought we were going to Mordor. I know Frank jokes about it, but I was waiting for Gandalf the Grey to come and hit me with some friggin' stick. That's what it felt like. Anthony, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm still exhausted now. Week on, so pretty tired actually. The thought of it, but yeah, to look back and just see his happy face, knowing that we were doing all the slave labour, was good to see.
I think we nicknamed.
Well, can I just add to that?
Here we go.
That now I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Rob, you might be able to correct me on this, but the marksman's job is just to shoot. So that was it. You guys had to do all the work for me. I was just meant to lay down and take the shot. So that's all it was for me.
Mate, we're carrying it along and just, at one stage, I've got a good photo there. I've got the 6.5 Creedmoor and my coffee in hand because we are literally trying to get him. He's talked up his long range shooting, and we'll get to that for day 4 or day 3, end of day 3. But he's talked up his long range shooting. I now know why, because he doesn't want to walk. That's dead set for sure. He doesn't want to carry his own rifle. I know he called us peasants before, but I really do feel that's how he sees us because that's how we were treated, Anthony. So, Rob, you shocked the crap out of me when you said he came over to you. I'm amazed there wasn't a little chariot taking him over there because, honestly, that's what the rest of the day was. But
can I just you're gonna laugh at this one, Matt. So after Rob was attacking the jaw on this ball to get it off, I heard a car. So I said to him, I'm going to run back up because it might be the boys. And no sooner had I got up there, I literally turned around and Rob was right behind me. And I thought, how did he get up there so quick? Like, it took me like a good 5 minutes to get up there. Like, I was puffed out and I turned around and Rob's like, yeah, hey. And I'm like, I just got up here and he's already behind me. So I think like 5 of my steps must have been one of his.
The gauge is at least twice as long, yes.
All right, so we've got to get into. So we went and had a bit of a look, and again, indicating us. Geez, we found some Samba sign. Like it was on. We found 20 smashed up trees, a nice big wallow. So we called in the man. We called in Frankie, the Sam Squinch. He's in. He's there. He's come up. He's going, look, I'm not going to bring Joan out. There's 1080 in the area, and I don't need her. That's what he said. Rob, just remember that comment. Mm-hmm. So we have made our way down to this wallow, excited to show him. He played it off, didn't he? Did you get that feeling? He was just like,
It's Frank Attenborough.
Yeah.
That's who it was.
I've never seen sniff and lick trees the way he did.
Yeah. Matt, did you know that if you just taste a leaf, you will know the time of day that Sandbar stag walked past there on his way to work whilst holding his coffee? Did you know that, Matt?
I actually think Frank's still got splinters in his tongue from licking those trees.
I tell you what, that was the highlight of the trip. I thought the snow experience was going to be like the pinnacle. Getting Frank down there to teach us about the wallow and the sandbar was just next level. For me, I think it was when I don't even know where it came from, when he whipped out that wine glass, dipped it into the wallow, swished it around or swirled it in the glass, tasted it and said, it was here 3 hours ago and the urine is 2 days old. I was really impressed. That vintage you were talking about was unreal, Frankie. All right, mate, you sold me. I'm definitely heading down there to do Errol's course. That was just the level of knowledge that came out of him that day. I mean, I've heard people say, to capture the animal, you got to think like the animal. When he was nibbling on those, little saplings on the ends, I was just watching going, this man is serious.
Well, you know what got me? When he actually got down next to the wallow and started acting like a deer.
The best one for me, honestly, it was the banter. He threatened to hit everybody in the group. He threatened to throw us into the water that we'd found. I think he said drown at some stage. There was drowning going to, occur.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Plenty
I said choking. Choking,
okay,
I said, not drowning.
choking underwater. Then when we're seeing all these good rubs, and I'm looking at going, this is, quite fresh. He's touching it with different parts of his anatomy. We'll leave the listeners to work out what he did.
Let's just say the trees weren't the only wood that day, Matt.
Speaking of his anatomy, we forgot, I don't know which day it was, but when we met up with him, he had a muddy hole right near his anus. And I'm starting to think one of the locals may have bushwhacked him.
He was presenting for the Samba Stag. That's what he was doing. So, in fairness, as much as we were taking the piss out of him at the time, I was actually really, really impressed because he was able to talk about why things were what, identify different prints as hinds, ages. I think even there, he was talking about, you can see here, this toenail's pronounced, this toenail's not, because apparently they get pedicures out there. I don't know. Hey, it's a new business going on, Samba pedicures. He's going through all this stuff. Frankie, I was impressed. As much crap as, well, I didn't give you much crap, in fairness. I actually asked you to, say thank you and, treat me the same as Joan when she indicates for you and finds you a lot of stuff. All I wanted was like a good boy, but you didn't give that to me at all, which, hey, that's all right. No worries. But, geez, I believe, boys, we found a lot more than Joan. Do you feel the same way?
I think it was very eye-opening. Like, I know we took the piss a lot, but, once seeing, Frank show us all these experimental works, you could actually see so much more and understanding, like how a wallow really operates. And, again, without taking the piss, like it was really good at that point to understand, how they work and how you're going to potentially find them by the stuff that we were taught. So I do really appreciate that part. But yes, we did find way more than Frank could have. And again, it's not his pointing dog, it's his seeing eye dog for sure and certain.
So I'd back that up. I learnt a heap. And as much as we stirred him up, him pointing out things, talking about why they were meeting, all those different things was very informative. And if we got that out of 30 minutes, I can't imagine what 3 days with Errol Mason would actually achieve, because Frank impressed me. And I don't say that lightly. He really did. And as much as Frodo gave him that much shit about there was a lot of threats. I mean, he'd probably lose his firearms license if we recorded them. But, I mean, that's okay. We have witnesses and, there was but no, I thoroughly enjoyed that part of it. It was really good. Frankie, mate, you've been very quiet. Here's your chance.
I've had to put myself on mute because I've been laughing that hard.
And you've been swearing hard.
Here's your chance. Did you feel like you were strutting around like a king? I mean, you were strutting like, see, boys, I know my shit. That's what it looked like to me.
Right. Well, for those listening, this is how it really went. I got a text message from Matt saying, found a wallow, should come check it out. Yep, no worries. Where are you? So Matt still doesn't know how to send a pin on the Venza, but he'll get there. He'll learn. He's still in that amateur stage.
Rob doesn't help me like you, mate.
So I didn't take Jane out of the car because, yes, there was 1080 in the area. Mind you, though, I do trust her more than I trust the three of you, that's for sure. I did ask whether you wanted this to be a teaching moment, and you said, no, we'll listen to you. And just the amount of crap that you guys were just dribbling was just ridiculous. Another reason why I didn't bother bringing Joan is because you clowns made that much of a circus down there that any Sambo in the area would have taken off anyway. So no use in bringing the dog down there. Yes, you did find a wallow, and yes, it was good to show you what different footprints were, rubs, why rubs were there, why they don't drink at that particular water hole, things like that was great to show you. But I do recommend you guys go and do the Errol Mason course, and I reckon if you three apply through NDIS, I reckon you'll get that for free.
Will we get your same discount, Franco?
You get even better discount, don't worry.
See, we have been really nice to you, Frank. We have some photos of you out hunting, and we have not posted them. I mean, if you want to start throwing mud like you did when you were rolling around in the wallow, mate, we can play.
I just wish that I was able to talk to two professionals like James and Rob and actually explain to them because I feel that information would have been wasted on deaf ears, personally.
It's actually a shame that you guys weren't up there because as much as he copped a lot of crap, and he did that, let's make that very clear. He did know his stuff. He was telling me to come and sniff the tree. I thought it was a little creepy, but I mean, hey, we did that. And there was the smell.
Did it not smell herbaceous? Did it smell herbaceous or not?
Thought it smelled like your BO. But I mean, hey, look, it did smell like a deer. I don't know. Like, I'm not an expert. No, it did. You could tell that he knew his stuff. And even how he was talking about the rubs, you know, he's become an expert on rubbing one out. So definitely true. So, James, did you hunt that Arvo, or you went and caught up with a mate, I believe? I can't even remember. That was Origin night, because that's the night I came back and found you, and I'll talk about that soon.
So we got to the jerky on day two. Day two afternoon, I just had a quick hunt in the afternoon, not far out of town. That was cut short because all the bush was super thick. I saw one fellow that made me and took off, and that was about, the second day afternoon. Third day, I thought I'm going to go for a little drive back up the hill to see if I can get back up to where we were, back up at 1,200 metres, because I was really excited with the spot. I just, by chance thought I'd go and hunt, and I saw the stag and I shot the buck or whatever. And I thought, well, I don't know what conditions are like up there. We left it completely snowed out. Could be ice on the road and just generally animals, in the early hours. So I thought I'll do gentleman's hours, and I left camp at Tumbarumba at about 8 o'clock, headed up the hill, and it was actually all right because we as we knew, it got graded and stuff, and it hadn't. One of the things why we left camp was like, well, if it keeps snowing like this, we might not get out. So, but it hadn't got worse. So I ended up getting back up to my spot. Went for a bit of a walk in there. It was very fun. It was very pretty. It was like the dusting of snow was gone from the trees, but there was plenty of snow on the ground, but it wasn't sort of super powdery now. It was a bit icy. Bucket list thing, like I've always wanted to hunt in the snow. It was fantastic, really pretty, especially because we had some sun out that day too, so it was just like sparkling. And it was great to get back out there. I had left a shoulder off that fallow in a tree. Unfortunately, with the time it's been out there, it got a bit all yucky and wet with the wet. And some critters have been chewing on it, antechinus's. I had to tell some of the boys what an antechinus was.
I thought it was a Frank.
Back in the cabin. It was Frank. Yeah, so I ended up leaving that shoulder out there for the scavengers because it was just a bit, not really good, and, not a lot of meat on the fallow shoulder, so no big loss. I got the bulk of it out. I ended up putting a trail cam out. I found a different way to get in there and actually sort of camp a bit closer to the action for next time. So definitely worth getting out there. Unfortunately, as pretty as the snow was, very noisy to hunt. Like within a few hundred metres, I've just decided, this is just a scouting trip now, because if you've ever hunted on real crunchy, dry leaves, that's like cornflakes, like snow is about 90% bad as that. It's just terrible. Like I could not be quiet no matter how hard I tried. So I just took it as a scouting journey, got a camera out and did a bit of a walking around and did a bit more exploring. Spent about 4 hours out there. Yeah, and I thought, oh, well, by this stage, like some of the thick grass had like snow over top of it, but it's like 2 foot high. So it gives you this false ground level. So you're like trudging through it, and like by the end of it, like my shoes are full of snow. I'm just wet all over. Yeah, about 2 o'clock, I pulled the pin by the time I got to the car. But and again, like I'd already shot a deer, so I'm like, I'm happy with that. As far as I'm concerned, when we got snowed out the first night, like that was the trip done. To me, like it was like, well, that's ruined. We'll make the best of it. So I was happy to get a deer. I was happy to see a sandbar and see some sign. All of it for me was next time. Next time I come down here, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm after. I've got a good spot to go and hunt. And when I hit that, I'm going to be hitting it 100% full deer stalk mode, like, very slowly. So, yeah, and then I went back into town and I went back to the caravan park and had a shower, got cleaned up, which was nice. I must admit, I was a bit disappointed. Like I'm out there to camp in the bush and we ended up at a caravan park and sitting at the night. I mean, it was nice too, sitting in the cabin with the heating and stuff, but it was a bit weird, like you're out in the day hunting around the snow. And
no, it wasn't. That heating was a joke, mate. Don't say it was nice. It was. I don't know where they came from. I expected Rob to do something like that. It was 45 friggin' degrees in that thing. Like I nearly.
I walked in,
died.
I'm like, I'm gonna get down my undies in a minute here. What's going on?
That was the plan.
But so I ended up catching up with a friend who used to live down the road at Toomer. Used to be with my uncle there, and a good little catch up, and that was about my third day, and I thought, by that stage, that's about me done. I won't hunt in the morning. I've got a 7-hour drive to head back the next day, so I thought, and state of origin and last night kind of thing. We'll probably have a few beers and whatever. So that was about it, really.
So we went back up the mountain too because I think we followed Rob. We actually thought we were ahead of Rob going up the mountain, but you got stuck back in town doing something. I'm not sure what. And then we left the broken stuff up there because we just wanted to hightail it. It was snowing pretty bad. And the plan was always we were going to go back and get the rubbish that we left in the camp spot. So we headed back up there and met up with Rob in the camping area. And then we got stuck into sorting your stuff out, Rob. That took a bit of time, didn't it?
Yeah, it took about, we had to bloody pull a gazebo apart with a screwdriver so we could fold it up. But obviously we had to go back and do that. Can't leave that stuff there. And the locals had noted that it was up there. When I went down in the camp, down into town that night and was trying to take that stuff to the tip that was closed, and I ended up going to one of the local shops that I noticed had a skip bin and asked them if I could dump it, and they were very kind to let me do so. Yeah, they'd said, we've been up there the day before, having a look at the snow, and we saw that stuff in the campsite. So if anyone else finds themselves in the same situation, make sure you head up and clean up after yourself, because you don't want to give the hunting community a bad name with the local towns. But yeah, the reason I ended up behind you guys is I was actually going down one of the back roads of town, and I bumped into a local bloke I'd seen the day before in the other side of the forest. And him and I got along quite well. And he has given me some awesome tips, some awesome information when I get down there next time. So that's what waylaid me. He was a good dude, just a good Aussie bloke. Love the yarn, very generous with his information.
Yeah, so we've gone up there, we've packed yours, thrown it on there. Frankie is back in the singlet. Was it singlet? Top off. I don't know what it was, just wrapping things up, abusing me for my tape was not good enough for him. And he didn't have any of his own.
Oh, mate, it was 2 years old. It was coming apart in
Did it work?
Like literally 2 centimeter pieces.
Mate, you really don't appreciate me. That's what really came out of this trip.
Off it. Yeah, it did.
So either way, I used it as a bit of a learning curve. So we packed up things. I'm echoing what Rob said. If you do leave rubbish for whatever reason, like we would have taken it that night, but we wanted to get out of there, go back up and get it. Don't give a bad name to the hunting community, because especially in small towns, word gets around very quickly. So we did that and then got everything packed up and we went, you know what, we're going to have a hunt. I was excited about the hunt. Echo what James said, crunchy as. So we had a bit of a game plan. We wanted to go out and check out a face, and we started walking it, boys. And what happened?
Frodo.
Hey?
Frodo went to sleep. He's asleep already.
What?
You know what? You're talking to me? Hello down there. Can you hear us?
What happened when we walked over the other side into Moragal North?
Well, I think Anthony had swamp foot. so he wasn't going to walk any further. We'd only walked in maybe a K and he was done. So we sort of decided to turn back and maybe go into town and get him some new boots. which that never eventuated.
Well, it was 4:45 in the afternoon. I don't know what shop was going to be open. So when you're saying, we're going to go into town and get boots, I just went, sure, boys. Yeah.
I think the biggest eye-opener was that like when we'd walked through and looked at the other potential camping spot that we were going to stay in, and to see the look of surprise on your face, thinking, thank God the other one wasn't full, because of all the wind, destruction and snow and all the damage, right in the middle of that camp spot, a humongous trunk had fallen off a gum tree or whatever tree it was, but it definitely would have landed on one of us, and we probably wouldn't be here laughing about it. So grateful that we did get that spot at Bago and not at Moragal North, because it might have been a different situation. So the thought being that, just anyone that is going out camping, just be mindful of the dead trees around you and the potential of what could happen, because it has happened and there's been photos shown around of it all. And just got to stay safe out there.
Honestly, on that, walking in that spot, the amount of branches, and I mean big ass branches that were down, was ridiculous. It was huge. There were so many that were down. It was nuts. So we ended up going for that walk. I made a massive error on that walk. I'll put my hand up. You two said you were going to turn around. I said, yep, no worries, whatever, all good. I'll catch you later. I realised I only had my bino harness after you guys had gone. And I went, oh, crap, I've got literally nothing on me other than binoculars. I've got no anything. It's an hour till sunset. Holy shit, this isn't great. It's a new area. I don't know where I am. Avenza is not my friend. I will say that now, because it turned me around multiple times. I was sitting there going, holy crap, this could end badly. I need to get back to the car, because I would be walking in one direction and the navigation side of it was just changing completely and sending me like in a 45-degree angle every 2 seconds. And I hadn't logged my GPS. I usually log my Garmin as well as my backup, because that's pretty trustworthy in navigating out of positions. I whistled at you boys at one stage and you didn't hear, which I don't know what happened there, but I mean, I sort of thought I saw someone give me the finger, but I don't know. I can't confirm or deny. So we let that one go. But we found a frozen wallaby with ears chewed off. That was cool. And we then headed back to, I said I was going to go back and check on Frankie, because we saw his car on the way out, and we all worry about him because he rates himself, and we can see that by the title he's given himself on screen at the moment, which is The Legend. I know our viewers can't see that, but no one else has given himself a title. I just want to point that out. So let's just make that clear. So we went to check on him.
Frank Attenborough.
We got over there, checked on him, couldn't find him. So we went, okay, let's go for a walk. And then we got back to it again, didn't we? We went, I've got this long clearing. Frodo's talked up the long range stuff. And I said, do you want to take the gun out? We can reach out. Oh, how far? The private land hunting really was just showing off in this. And I'm like, mate, it's the last hour. This is the golden time. Let's go and sit off it. The deer are still moving. We've seen tracks in the snow. We followed them a little bit earlier. This is the time. So we got up there. After, mind you, I'd threatened him that I'd carried the bloody gun because he didn't want to. I think he felt that bad that he ended up trekking up there with it, and that I was impressed at that. Anthony, you stayed in the car warming up your feet because you were so cold, and then we got up there. We sat there glassing and waiting for something to pop out. And Frodo, what did you say in prime shooting light to me?
Well, let me just defend myself here a little bit, Matt. So you talked up this area like there were literally going to be deer on top of each other. I actually thought that I could lay down on my back with my eyes closed and shoot behind me and get one. That's how many deer I thought were in the area. So anyway, 10 minutes before shooting light was over, I pulled the pin. I was frozen. I couldn't feel my left leg because of the way I was sitting. And I was actually really conscious about it because I thought if I get up in front of Matt and just fall over, he's probably going to leave me here. So when I actually did get up, I was concentrating so hard on my left leg, I couldn't feel it at all. I had no feeling in it whatsoever. I was getting pins and needles, and I don't know if you noticed, but I was struggling to walk back that first 50 meters because I could not feel my left leg. So I'd pulled the pin. I had enough. I was cold, I was frozen, and I was like, you know what? I think Matt's lied to me. There's no deer here. I think he just wanted to see me freeze.
In fairness, good spots, not good with snow. It was an interesting one for me, and I want to throw around everyone. We talked about the deer dropping out of the snow and dropping down in elevation, but where we were hunting was a long way up, and those deer had to move a bloody long way to get out of the snow line. I feel they just bunkered down. I don't feel they would have made that trek because we drove for a good, I reckon a good 15 minutes before we got out of the snow. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys want to clarify? James, what? I'll go to you, James, and I'll throw to you, Rob.
I can say, look, you're probably right. And the weather event we had was not a regular thing as well. But I can say I saw prints heading down in the directions to get like steeply away from the snow. Like since the snowfall, when I got back up there the third day, there was definitely prints getting away from the snow, and that was deer and dogs. So, whether it was just chance that they were going that way or not. But again, so what I saw sort of indicates that they were getting below the snow, but at the same time, they could be, it's a big area. Once you get on top there too, like some would have, like you say, just hunkered down and just chilled out there and see what happens,
Well, we were at 1150 high, and I think it snowed above 800. I know the prints we saw, Frodo and I, when we were going to my good spot that's not so good in the snow, good to note, were the deer were actually moving higher. So the tracks we followed were actually going uphill. So that was quite sort of shocking. And that's why I sort of felt that maybe they're just hunkering down and they go, stuff it. I know we spoke about it and I talked about going to Perisher, snow skiing, and that there's deer always up in the mountains in the thick snow. And that's thick snow, a lot thicker than what we had. Rob, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I kind of assumed that they might have at least pushed into whatever lower ground they had. Whether or not that was low enough to get out of the snow, I don't know. But on that last afternoon, after we picked up all the broken stuff from camp, I actually drove back down Elliott Way, and my plan was to try and find that fringe of the snow line and then try and find some decent terrain around that. I ended up pushing back probably about 50 metres up in elevation and kind of went down through the snow towards the non-snowy part. And I ended up finding a really good choke point right near the boundary of Bago. And a free tip I would give to any listeners that haven't hunted the forest. I reckon the boundaries of Bago are very productive based on the scouting that I pretty much did over those 3 days. So I don't think you need to go far. But I found this great choke point and found some very fresh track in the snow. There was obviously deer, and I'm no expert, but they were very large deer prints, the largest I've ever seen. I suspect sambar. Definitely haven't seen any prints that big in the forest at Holdmore Fallow. And what I noticed was that those prints were kind of contouring the elevation I was on. And there were prints that were 1 to 2 days older, which would have been from the original snowfall, that had melted a bit, that were going back the other way. But that very well could have just been their normal path that they traverse daily. But it did look like they'd kind of hung around that same area for the last 2 days at least. So yeah, I don't know that they necessarily do hightail it from the snow, but I'd love to hear from anyone that does.
I'll throw to Frank in a second, because one of the things he taught the three of us when we were out looking is that if you find good prints, especially in the snow, because he's that attuned to the sambar now, you just need to look for the nail polish on the snow. And especially if they use like a red or a bright colour, it's so easy to see and track them, and they're a hind or they're a stag that identifies as a hind. So it was really clear. Now he can tell, because if he sticks his tongue in that footprint, he can tell you what it identifies as. Mate, unbelievable. Frank.
Yes, Matt.
What are your thoughts on the snow, mate?
If I can be serious for 2 seconds.
2 seconds only.
Okay. I think that if you struggle to find heavy traffic areas for deer, if you go to the state forest just after it snowed and do a scouting mission, you'll be able to find where that heavy traffic is going into fringe country like Rob did. So use that to your advantage, the first thing. The next thing is, I think that deer will move down below the snow line if it's in their home range. If it's not in their home range, they're obviously going to stick to that area. But if it's in their home range and they can get that feed down lower, I reckon they'll go there. But that's my opinion. I'm happy to be corrected on that.
I was spewing, so I haven't done Errol's course, but I bought his Hunt Smart System book last year and read it front and back. Took heaps of notes and then didn't bring that notebook with me. He's got one or two chapters just on what happens with the snow.
Yep.
And I haven't read it since, but I was really kicking myself for not having it after that because I had a really good opportunity to put that info straight into action.
Well, like to our defence, we didn't realise we were going to cop 3 metres of snow in one night. So that went out the window come 3 o'clock in the morning, unfortunately.
That was cool though. I look back on it and go, what an experience. That memory's just going to stay forever. I know we weren't super successful on the hunt, but I had so much fun because of it and the change up and what happened as a flow on effect. Even getting to watch Origin, what a cracking game that was. Sharing a beer, we did all that. We headed back down to Kent, and I've got to share how I found James. I rock up.
I was just chilling out.
I drive. You talked about Wolf Creek earlier. I drive into camp. I drive into the grass. We're at the back corner, just him and I, away from everybody. I pull up and I just look over at him. He's leaning back, his big, bushy, handsome moustache. He's just glowing because he's smoking on a cigar. He's playing, I can't even remember what you're playing, and this puff of smoke is just surrounding him as he's going. He's just chilling out. And I had Wolf Creek vibes. I'm not going to lie. That's why those Frenchies got out of there. I'm telling you.
I was at the end of the trip last night before I head over because all the guys were pretty late back to the cabin for Origin. I thought, well, that might be a good sign. Hopefully, bloody someone's got something. I think Rob came through first and had a bit of a chat, and then he went to his little room, and then I thought, well, it's getting about dark. I'm going to cook me dinner, but before I do that, I'm going to have a cigar, and I just sat there listening to some music and, waited for Matt to turn up. Matt thought it was funny for some reason.
I did. I rocked up and I was just laughing my head off. You, mate, you looked relaxed. I will say that.
I was.
I know you were. I know. It was very funny. I was just like, he's in chill mode.
Look, I can say it's easy to say because I already had a deer, but that's one thing. It wasn't the deer I was down there for. I wanted to get a sandbar. So, I mean, it was still a win, but at the same time, I'm just like, it's the last afternoon. Done me hunting. I don't have time in the morning to go out again. Now we're in town and stuff. If we're up at camp still, it'd be a different story. But, I was just thought, I'll chill out and have a few drinks and have a cigar and listen to music. And Matt turns up. He's like, what are you doing?
In fairness, I actually rocked up. I thought you were smoking the jerky. I just sat there. I was like, this bloke's rubbing it in. Just now he's smoking the buck in front of me. Like just he's just burning it in front of me. Like he's fed it to me. Now he's smoking it. Like, Jesus, what the hell? But we went over for Origin. Origin was gold. Rob cooked up some amazing jaffles. I think Frank nearly gave me food poisoning with the chicken kebabs that he did.
Oh, damn, I missed them.
Yeah, you did. Some people got a couple extra. I mean, I don't know who that was. Probably the smallest person in the group obviously had the most. I don't know how that worked, but I mean, that's
Shetland Tony.
Shetland Tony. He was
my man Rob looking out for me.
Well, it's because you were standing next to him and dry humping him the whole time, mate. That's probably why.
Well, I'm not going to lie, it crossed my mind.
Origin was great. I had a great time. We then, I went out the next morning, was lucky enough. One of the boys down there took us out to a property, glassed up 5 fallow with him as we rocked up, and that was the end of it. He was, I'll tell you what, a lot of sign down there. so much. You couldn't even walk without seeing signs. So unfortunately, it was uneventful, but that was gold. And then we all took off. Rob, you left very early, 4:30 to get back home. Very long drive in one hit back to Queensland. Was there a temperature change there, mate? You struggle?
Yeah, man, I think the difference is about 25 degrees from going from -3 to low 20s.
Jesus.
Holy dooly.
That was, yeah, wow. That's a big one. Long drive, but glad you got home safe, mate. That was a good thing. Before we wrap this up, and, you know, I'm going to do something a little different to end tonight, but we've left Joan out a lot tonight. I really feel that she hasn't got any attention that she deserves. I don't know about you guys. She looked so disappointed.
You're still cranking that horn, are you?
Well, I mean, when we were at the cabin, you let her out and she ran off so quickly. She went towards Rob that many times. I really feel she wanted to be abducted, and that, you know, the only thing she couldn't really do was jump in his car. But I do have that feeling. I mean, hey.
Well, look, on the last afternoon, because I knew you were going to ask me about that soon enough, Matt. So on my last afternoon, after you went to your secret honey hole that you've been to before and going to be a sure thing, and you took the military trained sniper with you to definitely bag something, that went really well for you. Anyway, I started walking around camp and soon realized that all these saplings were bent over with heaps of snow on them. And if you step on the end of these saplings, it releases the snow and they shoot up in the air. So after about 100 meters of them slapping snow in my face, I thought, stuff this. I'm turning back, got in the car, went down as far as I could, and then proceeded to hop out and went down a track with Joan. I might have gone down the track maybe about 300 meters or so, where she veered off to the right, and then she came straight back on that line and veered off to the left. And she did that a couple of times. And there was definitely a heavy traffic area right there in front. And the view would have been about 200 meters or so. So I decided to actually stand there because the squelching was making too much noise walking through the snow. So we stood behind a tree and waited. And the only thing we seen was a heap of brumbies. And that was my night, unfortunately, but nonetheless, still got to get the dog out. And when I left just after shooting light, I can say that the snow does reflect the moonlight up, so you're not without a path to get back to the car, because I actually didn't have my head torch on me. So it was really reassuring to know that the snow can still guide you back to the car if you know how to work Avenza maps. And just on that too, I think you'll find that in the terms and conditions of using Avenza, it does say for, you know, over 12-year-olds. So you might want to relook at that.
Well, don't go back off the subject of Joan for 1 second. It was funny because you took her out to go for a wee one night, the last night actually, and we're sitting on a lounge and we're like owner, like dog. And as we said that, she ran full noise straight into the glass sliding door.
Yeah, who's calling on the other side? Was Rob calling her from the other side, maybe? I don't know. But
Jones is saying.
She's seen Rob went straight for him. Anyway, poor Joan. Poor Joan.
Can I just say two things? When you were talking about that story and you said she was tracking something, I don't know about everybody else, but I went to Brumbies, like she was indicating on them again, but that was one thing I went straight to. The other one, when you said you didn't have your torch on, we figured that out earlier in the podcast when Frodo said you lent him yours and you couldn't see because it's like a candle. So no wonder you didn't turn it on and use the moonlight, mate. Probably a smart option.
If I may, it wasn't my head torch. It was my brother's head torch he was borrowing. If
sorry.
I may. And to correct you even more, when I looked at the snow, it wasn't hoof prints from horses that I've seen, but from deer. So thank you again, Matt.
How did you tell the difference with your tongue?
It was a Sasquatch. Frank was tracking his own prints.
Actually, the last thing I want to touch base on here, Matt, is your affection and love for quail. On the last night, we got to talking, and on the group, a little bit of us on a little whale. I think his name's Quaily.
Oh, Quaily. All right, let's. I'm going to get some video of this because I know you think I'm full of crap. So where do we start here?
Matt's trained at indicating quail.
All right. I think we've spoken about this previously, but Frankie hooked me up and got me 15 quails because I want to do this quail breeding program and start raising them for meat. And I get a lot of crap from him about this because I didn't even know quail flew. And when I released those little mongrels into the pen, I was thinking they're just going to run around on the ground similar to what Frodo does. But no, these things bursted out of the box like it was some white dove at a wedding and flew, and I instantly lost multiple. Jesus Christ, I didn't know what was going on. I was in shock and awe. Yeah, I got nothing. Probably what people feel or like when they see a Sam Squatch in the wild and they come across him in the state forest, because that's what I felt. Now, my program has suffered. I'm not going to lie. We started with 15. I now have one. And now the little fella, Quaily, I call him now, he's adapted and he's now like a little pet that actually follows us around and walks around. He leaves the cage and does his own thing and he goes back in. So I'm very impressed with little Quaily. He's no longer a food item because my kids love him and he follows my wife around. So we have him. Frank constantly reminds me of my inability to breed quails and the fact that I didn't know they flew. I don't think I'm the only one that didn't know those fuckers flew, but hey, they do. That's fine. Lesson learnt. I'm probably not going to get any more because I'm useless with quails. So that is fine with me. Hey, I'll admit that. I'll own it. Has no big deal. So
you do know they're birds, right? Birds can fly.
Well, okay. So yes, you make a valid point there. There are plenty of birds that are flightless. I don't know if you heard of a thing called an emu. Hey, that's just where I go to. They don't fly. I don't know. There's quails that don't fly. I'm sure of it. I'm going to look this up.
There is a quail that doesn't fly. It's called a king quail.
There you go. All right.
A Japanese
king
quail.
All right. That's what I thought he gave me.
That's probably the only quail species that doesn't fly.
You know so much about birds, yet you called a bin chicken a swan. I just don't understand.
I asked the question whether it was or not. I asked the question. I couldn't see it properly. Sun was in my eye, seriously.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it. It was flying straight on. I couldn't see it.
When you seen that hind, that button buck, was the sun in your eyes too the first day?
Hey, have you noticed something that every time Joan tracks deer or Frank sees them, no one else is around?
Mysterious.
Yeah, something to think about, eh?
Can I also, I've got to say this, if you haven't, Rob's on here, great bloke, Athena Spatial, amazing maps. I can't speak for all the maps because Frank had an extra 10. He'll be able to tell you more about Rob's maps than I will, but I mean, it didn't help him. I just really want to end the podcast in a couple of ways, but one thing I really want to mention is Frank did not get a Samba. That's the main one I really want to raise. All right. I'm happy. I can put my hand up and say I wasn't going to get one. I'm not a great hunter. The so-called Samba legend over here that, had every tool at his disposal. What happened, Frank? What happened?
Well, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. That's the first thing I'll say, Matt.
Mate, you're not good with birds. Let's not go there.
Well, look who's calling the kettle black, yeah? But anyway, when I did look at the Bago forest map when it came out, so all the spots that all my mates gave me, that you think that the whole fraternity of the shooting world gave me all their spots, none of them were actually in the bait-free zone. So I had to do my own scouting, Matt, and while I was doing that, I was talking to Rob about it, and I asked Rob, it'd be really good if you could see in these circled areas the northeast and northwest facing aspects. And Rob goes, I think I can do something for you, Frank. Just hold on. And long and behold, it wasn't that long later, I had 2 maps that I could put over Google Earth, and the northeastern aspect was highlighted in yellow and the northwestern aspect was highlighted in red. And that just opened a whole new world to e-scouting. And apparently it's not that hard to do. Then concentrated my efforts onto those particular spots on the map, and I marked it out and transferred them over to Avenza maps so that they're in my hand ready to go, but didn't get a chance to hunt any of those spots because of the snow. That's my excuse. And also, claim to be any sandbar slayer because I haven't shot not even one. But I will say this, it was pretty cool to be out with a bunch of blokes who just, even though it was a dire situation at one point, it was quite funny to get at the other side and just absolutely still laugh and be jovial. And by the end of it, we're still good mates. So I think that's a fantastic result for that trip away. So, but look, I'm going to get a new travel agent. I didn't put down 5 out of 5 would recommend, but perhaps next time if you could lay off in the snow a bit, that'd be great. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, look, I flagged that we were going to get some snow. So I'm just putting it out there. You all knew that we were going to get some snow, hence the reason we chatted about snow chains. And I'm glad capable 4 drives, trailers were no problems. We were good. Like, I think it was just one of those things we'll remember forever. So let's go back. One more thing for Frankie, and I don't want to keep hassling him, but he's like a walking billboard, isn't he? Can I just say that? He had about 50,000 of Rob's maps, again, from Athena Spatial. Check him out on Avenza. He also has a custom-made vest from James. I mean, it looked cute, mate. You looked the part. I will say that. That photo we got with him looking up at the stars or the sky, trying to find sandbar and using his indicating dog. Maybe she found a swan. I don't know. But he was in the vest. He looked the part. So James, Blackfoot Designs, looks really good, mate. Great custom-made vest for Frank. That really helped him with his hunting. So I thank you for that too. That's just another element that he added.
Yes. I mean, no, like honestly, those 2 button bucks that I came across, they were coming down a game trail opposite me, opposite direction. And mate, like I had time, honestly, like they were looking at me. They'd made my movement. They hadn't got me scent yet. So I stopped. And mate, I'm telling you, I've used this camo long before I started making it. And like I had time to get my phone out of my pocket and check I wasn't in exclusion. I had time to think about, do I want to shoot one tonight or not? And then I even gave him like 5 seconds, man. If you don't run off in 5 seconds, I'm going to shoot you. Like they just stood there and they were just looking up towards me. Could not make me out. Like honestly, this stuff works, you know. And it was good to see Frankie out there with it. I'm actually been today modifying his vest for him and putting a few new bits and pieces and bits and bobs on it for him. So he'll be a happy man when he gets that back.
Yeah, thank you very much, James.
I just don't know if your wife's happy with you cutting up her new bed sheets to make it.
Can I just say, it's not so much the vest. I'm not paying out your gear, James. I actually really like your gear. I love that Frank's showing it off. However, it's probably not a good marketing tool for him to have that vest on and be walking around in tights. I mean, I don't know if anyone else feels that way.
He's got pants. Why isn't he wearing the pants?
Well, you need to make some tights in your camo because he'll be all over that. He was strutting around in those things. Oh, he was loving it.
Jealousy's a curse is all I can say, James.
All right, let's wrap it up. Final thoughts. I want to go around the table on the trip. I know Frank's given me a 1 out of 5 as a travel agent. That's cool. I probably gave myself a 0. Let's start. Frank's brother, Anthony, mate, first time we've met. I liked your company. You, the better brother. I'm happy to say that in public. Mate, tell us, your final thoughts, mate.
Mate, final thoughts. I was truly blessed to be able to come out on this hunt, invitational only, and I didn't get one, so I just decided to join it myself. But whatever happened, and we made everything fun and a great bunch of blokes. Life gets busy from time to time, and it was just nice to get away and delete a bit of that head noise that reoccurs. We're all busy, but whether I shot something or not, being out there with whatever was put in front of us, it still was great to get away. So if I was asked again or not asked again, I'll still come to the next one because I thoroughly enjoyed it and I really, definitely will do it again.
Last thing, I always learn something from a trip. Did you learn anything from this one?
Yeah, I definitely did. And it was not to share a room with Frank ever again.
Fair enough. Rob.
Yeah, mate, it was just a great adventure. It was a great adventure. I wouldn't change anything. I loved the way it went. Heaps of laughs by night, but everyone was looking in the day, trying to get something on the ground. It was a mad time, and I'm looking forward to doing it again sometime next year.
Something you learnt?
Something I learnt. You don't need chains in a four-wheel drive, apparently. I was a bit sceptical, but Yep, checks out.
I'm not full of shit all the time. Let's go over to James.
Yeah, had an awesome trip. So what was the 6 of us? So obviously I knew Matt and Frankie already.
5.5, mate. 5.5.
Settle and Tony. I tell you what. No, good bloke. All of you good blokes. So I met the 2 Anthonys and Rob this trip, and, going and sharing camp with people I've never met before, and fantastic. Awesome. I'd share camp with many other time, go hunt with many other time. We had a fantastic time. Great meeting you all. And, if waking up at 3:30 in a foot deep of snow to broken camps and we got to get up and get dressed and start packing up camp doesn't build character, I don't know what else does. And bonds is what I meant to say, build bonds, yeah. But no, you blokes are all fantastic, and it's a shame. Like, in one way, it was a great adventure how it did happen, but how it did happen was also a bit of a shame that, like, we sort of got chased out of our prime hunting area where we'd all planned to be and everything. And I feel like, in my guts, I feel like between the 6 of us, there would have been a lot more deer down if we had have stayed up there not stayed up there in those conditions. But if the snow didn't come in like it did, I think we would have done a lot better. But, we just had to improvise and adapt and, go drive up to where we could from town and that kind of thing. So, no, it was interesting. I had a lot of fun. Well, I brought some meat home, and even if I didn't, I would have still had the same amount of fun. Like, it was fantastic. And, look, it might be a bit sheltered, but I've never been to the snow before. So, like, it was pretty cool. Like walking around camp at night before we went to bed that first night and there's snow on the ground. Oh, that's cool. And then, as Matt said, like, when we were up in the morning and the campfires, like, it was still going like embers, but there's like snow on the logs on top. Like, that was just pretty cool. But no, fantastic time. Definitely learnt something, as Matt said. Like, you learn something every time you go. I've definitely learned a lot from the little time I did go hunting. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I saw plenty of game. Like, I mean, what did I see? A sandbar and 2 fallow the first afternoon, fallow the next afternoon, and 4 fallow the next day. So, and to be honest, like, for the time I was there, I didn't hunt, like, hours-wise a lot. So I reckon, there's plenty of game out there. And, unfortunately, we just didn't have the greatest conditions. Just changed plans a bit, but we all had fun, and, yeah, it was pretty good. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Thankfully, someone gave that. But Frodo.
Mate, look, I had a great trip. I really enjoyed it, to be honest, regardless of the fact that, there was a few camps that got damaged. I think, we all walked away from it safe, but we've all got a story to tell from it. As Rob said, it was an adventure. Yeah, I really, really had a great time. Even just being around you blokes, having a good laugh. It didn't bother me, that I didn't get anything. I had a blast of a time. I did say to you, Matt, I'm pretty sure I did say to you that if you ever come away with me and Frank and his brother, you'll have a good laugh. So you got to experience it firsthand. But I really couldn't have had a better time, to be honest. I really had an enjoyable time. Good time taking the mickey out of Frank. I mean, that's always good. As far as guides go, Matt, you are terrible. I'm going to have to find a new guide. Just, you're talking it up at the Hunters Campfire, and then I get to Maragal and didn't see diddly squat. So I'm going to be looking for a new guide, I think. Between you and Frank, it was hard pressed trying to get anyone onto deer. So we got Frank Attenborough over there, and Clarkson's guiding adventures, and I didn't see shit, so I'm gonna give it a 0.5 out of 10.
That's a bit rough.
Listen, firstly, I'm not a guide. I somehow planned this, and I did a really very light level planning. I will say that. I think I only posted about 3 times in the group. I think I just picked the dates. That was about it, and said we're going to this forest, game over. I was more there for the banter, I will say that, and it did not come up short like you, Frodo. So, lucky last, let's throw it over to Frankie, the man, the Samba guru, I'm now calling you. Mate, I have never seen anyone go to the level you have. The e-scouting, the conversations with Errol, the maps from Rob, the indicating dog that points out Brumbies. I don't, honestly, you did it all. Mate, swishing around that wallow in your mouth for the vintage, smelling and licking pine trees to work out freshness of rubs, the pedicures on the thing. Mate, there's just so much. I could go for hours just on the level of knowledge you have. What are your thoughts to wrap this one right up, mate?
Well, I'm going to take a page out of James' book, and whenever you point on a map, this is a honey hole here, I'm going to go to the other side of the map, and that's probably where the deer are. That's the first thing I'm going to do. What have I learned? I've learned so much just on this podcast. You've been lying to your wife for a long time between 4 inches and 12. That's terrible. What have I learned? I've learned all the best laid plans may not work out. If you do see a weather change coming up when you're planning your hunt, try to get yourself a plan to hunt in those conditions. Even if that doesn't eventuate, if there's a chance it might happen, there's a chance of rain, there's a chance of snow, have a look at where you might go to hunt. I've learned that some people appreciate your knowledge and some people just want to take the piss out of you about it all day, every day. And I think the best thing I found with the trip, obviously, was the camaraderie. We had a great time together. And when the white stuff hit the whirly thing, we actually did work together, got each other out of the situation. And when the time for seriousness came along, we did dig in and get and help each other out. So that was great. I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. If we do it next year, it was a good trip. I'm just hoping that we do see more deer when we go next year. So that'll be great. That's my final thoughts on it all. So over to you, Matt.
Mate, I just want to say a big thank you, boys. I had an absolute blast. The conditions were a once in a long time event. That was crazy. It was exactly what Frankie said, that everyone chipped in and helped each other out. I think except James, who kept sleeping in the swag, but the rest of us were there digging out that snow. I mean, he left Rob to, scream for 45 minutes. That's cool. But, we really we had a great time. Everyone got on like a house on fire, reflecting on it. And I came back and said to the missus, I had so much fun. It felt like it was like the 5th to 10th time we'd all been out together. The banter was just unbelievable. And I'm guessing listeners would have picked that up already from what's happened tonight on the podcast. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming. And, I can't wait to do it again. I'm already thinking about the next one. I keep thinking back on what happened and just pissing myself laughing at a lot that happened. And as much shit as I've given Frank, I do want to publicly say I appreciate and learnt an absolute heap when he was teaching me his Samba knowledge. Look, I personally won't go as far as he did when doing some certain things I don't want to make public, from a legal perspective, but he did go above and beyond. So it was fantastic. So I appreciate it. Cannot wait to do it again. And, thank you all for coming. James, Blackfoot Designs, we've had you on the podcast before. Check his stuff out. Rob, Athena Spatial, your maps are absolutely brilliant, mate. Cannot talk more highly about your stuff. You're going to come back on the podcast and we're just going to do a solo one talking about your stuff because, as Frank pointed out, I apparently need help with Avenza, and your maps are bloody brilliant, mate. Honestly, I will say that was a big one for me. Thank God we had some maps from you, and being able to go back down into Tumba, open them up and scout. And I think that's the biggest one. Scouting, having not just a map with contour lines, having that satellite imagery, the best of the best that you can get out there. It's unreal. Helped us out. Helped us find all those wallows that the three of us found that Joan couldn't. It was just great. So much for me. I had a great time. There's so many things I could keep talking about. Learnt an absolute heap, even from Frank. So, no, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate that the trip. It was a great time. Definitely one that will go down as just an unbelievable experience. Ticked off a few bucket list items for me. So really appreciate it, boys. Hopefully, I'm annoyed. I will be taking you down there when there's not a snowstorm because I'm confident in my areas. I'm a little nervous now that the old private land hunter Frodo is thinking he's going to see 50 deer running around a state forest. So I'm a little nervous, but you know what? And we'll get down there. We'll have a look, and I'm sure we'll. Again, the goal is still to get you boys a state forest deer before Frank. I'm confident that as long as Joan keeps indicating those brumbies, we're safe. All right. On that note, I think it's time to wrap it up. Appreciate everyone. Thank you for coming on, and guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye for now. If you have a topic, guest, question, or any gear that you want to hear about on the podcast, shoot us an email. AustralianHuntingandBeyond@gmail.com. Alternatively, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links are in the show notes. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a review and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.